Coming to you live from Navajo Trail and other undisclosed locations. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, watched on Big 12 Studios. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. Taman Turner is producing. Smoke and Mirrors at SEC Media Days will bring you the latest there. Plus, Pro Football Focus has their list of the top returning quarterbacks in the Big 12. And if their list, if that order held up, what would it mean for the month of December and who potentially could be playing in the Big 12 championship game? And then we've got a Big 12 basketball preview with Norm Roberts coming up later. Guys, good to see you again.
Yeah, James, we had this hiatus. We took a post Big 12 Media Days sort of lap, if you will. And then I don't know if you forgot to adjust your calendar or what, but we were actually back on Monday.
Oh,
Yeah.
James.
Was that daylight savings time?
James is like, hey, I know we're gonna take like 7 days off. I'm just gonna take another two after that.
He's like, what's the problem?
I've never been one.
Welcome back, James. Welcome back.
Hey, it's good to be here. Thank you for that warm welcome. I've never been one like I don't know if it's probably just something wrong with my brain. I cannot take an entire like full week unless everybody else does. I don't know what it is, and so I take my vacation and I like split it up into little chunks. Basically, just a bunch of like 3 or 4 day weekends versus the entire week, and that's been a theme over the years. Again, probably just something wrong with my OCD.
You're just committed. That's a blessing and a curse. You're super duper committed.
Hashtag we care. Okay. So you took your boys to a Rangers game? That sounds way more fun than my headline activity with my boys. I took my kids to Dig World. Have you guys been blasted with Facebook ads yet for Dig World?
No, no, I have not. But it sounds like a world in which you can dig.
It is a world of digging and a world of not a lot of fun. It's a world of standing in very long lines. It's this new like amusement park that is a construction site theme. And I
So it should
thought
be called Line World.
Line World is what it is. Heat World slash Line World slash not enough water to go around world. So I take my kids to Dig World. It just opened like 2 weeks ago. I'm getting blasted with Facebook ads, and I thought this looks fun. It was not fun. It was 110 degrees by 10 a.m. The lines were way too long. And because it just opened, it was not poorly run. Like all the staff members were there, but nobody actually knew how to work any of the machinery. I saw kids getting hoisted 20, 30 feet in the air that were unbuckled. That was a little bit of a red flag. I actually called one of them out. I was like, hey, I don't think he's fully buckled there, buddy. So, yeah, hard pass on that. Just wanted to give you guys a heads up.
Nice. I actually think if I'm not mistaken, they're opening one by us, but it may not be Dig World. It may be Dig Nation or some other dig variation. But seems like a good idea. I mean, I have heard of these concepts, right? It's like really smart. You take like construction gear and open up a really cool, fun place for men and sons alike, mothers and daughters too, to enjoy.
Yeah,
So
after like the half hour wait to ride any ride or do any construction or any digging at Dig World, that part was legit.
it seems like the amount of opportunities and experiences that kids have at their disposal at this day and age, it far surpasses anything that we had. And it sucks because everything is so expensive. So like not only do we not get these cool, fun kids activities that are like well beyond anything we ever had, we also now have to pay for them all. So we don't get to experience it as kids, and now we have to pay for it. It's one thing if you got to experience it. So I wish that upon my kids now. Hey,
Bro,
and I'm the type where I like to withhold that stuff from my kids. So it's like, oh yeah, you see that? It looks like fun, huh? No chance we're going there. Wait to be invited to a birthday party. Yep. Sometimes we'll just like stand outside. They can look in, be like, yeah, you see those
Oh,
kids having fun? Oh, but that looks like a good time.
dude, that's the play. Like, show them the 2 minute trailer on YouTube. It makes the place just look like a thriving metropolis. Like it looked like a little city on YouTube. We get there, and I'm like, what in the French? It was about a quarter of the size as what it looked like. And you're totally right, dude. At like 7 or 8 years old, I would have been losing my mind at a place like this. We pull up, we get in there, and they're just like, yeah, this is kind of cool. 30 minutes later, they're complaining about how long the lines are. They need water. They want snow cones. They're like, take us to Kids Empire, the $20 a pop all day trampoline park down the street.
Yeah, that's the one that kills me. That's the place where I take him to look from the outside looking in. Like, yeah, you can look. We ain't going in there though. Wait till your grandma and grandpa get here. Then they'll take you there.
Kids Empire? Dude, Kids Empire's the best.
If by best you mean worst, sure. Yeah, I'll take that.
Let me tell you why I like it. There's a ton of adult seating and it's very spread out. I sit at like an entire like cafeteria size long table with benches. Nobody bothers me. The kids can play for hours. I bring my laptop. They've got free Wi-Fi. Can do all the things. So it's a workstation slash empire for kids.
Yeah, with minimal staffing, and when you think about people that do not want to be there or care to be there, that's been my experience with the Kids Empire. Now, I will say, when it comes to digging, you don't need to spend $50 to dig. You could just get a shovel and go to your backyard, and it's free. You just need the shovel. Just add shovel.
That's the play. And $50 would be on the low end. $50 would get you like half a ticket into Dig World. So maybe a couple of waters and a snow cone. But bro, it was insane.
Yeah, I've spent the last 2 nights out in Arlington, which is the site of the Rangers ballpark, Globe Life Field, of course, one of the two ball stadiums in Arlington. And every time I drive out there, I wish that they could have built the stadiums closer or somewhere, you know, closer to where I live, to Dallas. I do find it hilarious that AT&T Stadium was referred to as Dallas Stadium, despite it being 30 miles from Dallas, and the fine taxpayers of Arlington, Texas, who footed the bill for the many capital improvements that they've seen, don't even get the benefit of being called Arlington Stadium. I find enjoying that. But yeah, the last 2 nights it's been blowout city for White Sox Rangers. White Sox blew out the Rangers 10-3 on Monday night, and the Rangers returned the favor 10-0 last night. So hoping for a different result tonight when we go with the whole family. But took the
So
boys last night, went with my cousin on Monday night. So it's been a good week, except for the
okay,
game last
so
night. Everything was great except for the game itself.
but you're in a climate controlled environment, and that is the way. That is
Yeah.
an awesome ballpark,
Yeah,
by
it's
the way.
hot. If you live in the DFW area, it's hot. And the idea that like the ballpark at Arlington is a gorgeous, amazing ballpark. But the fact that they played outdoor baseball in these conditions for like 4 decades still blows my mind. And of course, when I first moved here, the old ballpark, the ballpark at Arlington was still operational. And I don't know, do we just get like softer as people? Like because I love baseball, but the idea of sitting outside, maybe it's because I'm not a Ranger fan, but I feel like a lot of Ranger fans felt the same way. So like, what is it that like 20 years ago we could just withstand the heat and stay outside? Because or is it hotter? I don't. I mean, I'm assuming it's always been hot in Dallas.
Can
I'd
I answer
say,
that question?
Are we softer?
yeah, I was going to say both things can be true and both things are true. Go ahead, T Chains.
Well, the Rangers have been around for 55 years and have
Yeah.
only had 9 winning seasons. They didn't have a lot of fans at the old ballpark, and it's amazing that as soon as they moved to an indoor environment, they actually got players to come here and they won the World Series. I mean, the old stadium, the old concept just didn't work. It was too hot. The players
Well,
were miserable.
I don't
Yeah.
know if you guys,
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys know
So were the
this.
fans.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know if you guys are in the loop on this, but baseball players also they wear pants. They wear pants, full length, so they're very hot from the waist down.
Yeah.
That is the one sport I personally like growing up was like I can't do this. Like this is not fun. It's 100 degrees and I'm wearing pants. This does not make sense to me.
Yeah, and it's funny because with my oldest son, when he first started playing baseball, I was like a stickler, like, oh, Dad, can I wear shorts? No. Are you kidding? It's baseball. You do it. You just play. That's what we did. Never mind that I didn't grow up here. It was hot, but not nearly as hot as it is here. But yeah, no,
Right.
you got to do it. And long story short, he doesn't play baseball anymore. And so when it came time for my second kid to play baseball, he's like, Dad, can I wear shorts? I'm like, yep, dude, put them on. Yep, yeah, absolutely. Shorts. You want shorts? You want tank top? You want not wear clothes? Perfect. Absolutely. Yep, you got whatever you want. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Can't wear shorts, you'll scrape up your knees.
Oh, that was the first. Oh yeah, first kid. Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah. You can't wear shorts in baseball. This is the 1976 White Sox. Actually wore shorts as their uniform one year. I don't think it was 76, but I'm probably not too far off.
Yeah, we've had a major breakthrough, a major turning point in our lives because all of our kids have officially retired from baseball. And it was quite the celebration. When that official announcement came down that we are done with baseball, it was a big deal.
Look, I'm gonna meet you on this conversation when it comes to soccer. I can't do it with baseball. Baseball's a great sport. It's a classic sport. It's the best sport. I was super happy when my sons stopped playing soccer. It was a great day. But beyond that, baseball's amazing. I will not hear you disparage the great sport. And look out for the second grade Mets, is all I could say for next year, who very motivated, highly motivated baseball team here in our area, considering they won the championship 2 years ago, but lost this past year in the semis. So, yeah,
That team's hungry. That team's hungry for a ring.
very hungry.
And the rings that they give out, and I don't know if this is a Dallas thing, these rings are massive. Like these are not your run of the mill order online from Jostin's ring factory. These are like Super Bowl rings. These are heavy, thick, ginormous rings. They're too big for any of the players to actually wear. They look like they should be put in a trophy case.
I think they're real diamonds too.
Real diamonds, they've got it all. All right. Well, later on in the show, Taman, we've got to hear the last time Ari went to a Rangers game. If I remember correctly, he got in a fender bender and almost killed a guy. So we'll talk about that a little bit later on. It was quite the exchange.
Only half of that is true.
That took a turn.
Only half of that is true.
We're having like a fun conversation, and the next thing, Ari almost killed a guy.
Yeah, I mean that part didn't happen. The guy did almost kill me. He was very nonplussed by what I did, but so be it. Don't be like
Heated,
that on the road.
it was a heated exchange. It's a good thing Ari had nunchucks in the trunk because it got pretty intense.
Yeah, let me just say that there are some people on Earth that drive cars that love to be in control. So much so that if they're not in control, they lose their minds. But they not only do they need to be in control, they need to show everybody how much control they're in.
Hate those guys.
The
Yeah.
worst.
I also don't know. So I was trying to figure this out because there were tons of fans, and I don't, maybe they gave them out, but I missed it. But they gave away these like Rangers, Mavs, Cooper Flag jerseys. They were like basketball jerseys, but with the Texas Rangers colors, and it was a Cooper Flag jersey.
Okay.
Everybody was wearing them last night, so I was trying to figure out if that was the giveaway because 2 nights ago they were supposed to be giving away a Robin Ventura Nolan Ryan bobblehead. So if you remember years ago, famously, of course, Nolan Ryan beat the absolute living snot out of former Oklahoma State Cowboy Robin Ventura. And to this day, Nolan does not like talking about it. In fact, the first time I interviewed him, I interviewed Nolan a few times. I brought it up, and he was, let's just say, not. He didn't want to talk about it, which I got after the fact. But I told him I was a White Sox fan. It was, something from when I was a kid. I just remember it, and he just wasn't having it. But and then after the fact, I was like, yeah, I guess that makes sense. Like he's one of the greatest pitchers of all time, and for him to be like identified as like from that, I get it. Like maybe you probably want to be identified for like the Cy Youngs you won or the games you won or the strikeouts you had, but because it's like very much what he's known for. But anyways, they were supposed to give those away on Monday, and I didn't see anybody in the ballpark that had them. So I was wondering if they ever gave them away. I have the promotional calendar for the Rangers all mixed up, and it totally has ruined my last 2 days.
The fact that you're tracking the promotional calendar does not surprise me one bit, and I'm here for it. It also does not surprise me that we've spent 16 minutes BSing, which is fantastic. Because what it does is it shrinks how much time we have to spend on the SEC media days and all
Yeah,
that hype.
and you've been gone for the last 2 days, so we've kind of already barked up that tree. So yeah, to extend that further, this has been a great conversation about digging in outdoor stadiums.
They don't deserve our time, but we will say Brandon Marcello from CBS Sports is a good friend of the program, and he sat down with Greg Sankey, and this whole SEC breaking away from the NCAA. Greg Sankey told Brandon that his breakaway comments have been shocking. They've been taken out of context.
The headline that's developed, like there's some breakaway being considered, that's not actually what the answer was. So what we actually talk about is conference-led change. Like, should we have different policies for ourselves that make more sense rather than simply saying we follow NCAA eligibility rules? Those conversations are real. We also understand we have a responsibility beyond just our 16. America expects March Madness to exist. They expect Cinderella story. I hate those because they're generally wins over our teams when they take place. But that attachment, that part of American culture is real. We've seen, and you saw it this year and last year in Omaha, teams that you wouldn't have expected make it through. I think that's part of the competitive expectation. I also think that if we just walked away from the NCAA, whether we're frustrated or not, we'd be back in front of Congress in a conversation. My observation to our league is that's not a priority. So the headline that's developed, like there's some breakaway being considered, that's not actually what the answer was. There's frustrations that inform us asking there has to be a better way, and we're trying to work to improve the system. One of the pieces of information we need to see is their movement in Congress to actually adopt a bill that helps resolve some of the chaos that people would describe.
So Greg Sankey saying that they're not breaking away from the NCAA, but they're considering just making their own rules internally and doing their own thing.
So, okay, in some ways I like these comments, and they're probably more reasonable than I'd like to give them credit. But yeah, 100%. The opener was the clincher there. We're not breaking away. We're just going to be forming our own rules to kind of lead the way differently from the NCAA. It's not the same thing just because I say so. Now, he did recognize, and I don't know that we've heard Sankey say this, we have a responsibility beyond the 16 members of the SEC, right? So we've asked throughout, does the SEC, do they have a responsibility, for the sport, for the good of the sport? And so this is the first time I think Greg Sankey's acknowledged that. He even mentioned, the value of the NCAA when it comes to other sports. And so I think this gives us some more clarity on this. Like what we have heard a very ambiguous breakaway, but it's extremely ambiguous. And it could mean a lot of different things. And so I think this gives us a little bit more clarity on that, despite how kind of funny it does sound to say, we're not breaking away. We're just going to be like moving to a different direction, which isn't breaking away.
There's an Airbnb. We're just taking the master bedroom, but everything else is going to be fine.
We're not moving out. We're not getting divorced. We're just going to move out and live in a different house.
It's like somebody wrote the headline and Greg Sankey said, okay, let him run with that. Like I saw Ari at the gym. He was lifting 400 pounds on bench press. And Ari says, yeah, I was. So if they're not breaking away from the NCAA, but they're going to write their own enforcement rules, they're going to have their own eligibility standards. These are all things on the table, their own NIL guardrails. It's almost like they're taking every single piece except for we still want to play teams on our schedule outside of the SEC because that's what we need. And so it's like you have your cake and you eat it too, which to me would put them right back in front of Congress, whether they try to leave the NCAA or not. All right, coming up next here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, we dive into the top returning quarterbacks in the Big 12, and there's an asterisk behind this because this is according to Pro Football Focus. If it holds up, what does it mean for this season? He's Ari, I'm James, and this is Big 12 Radio. This is Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio, heard exclusively on TuneIn. We are powered by Modelo, where there is no off season. That's a Modelo fan rule. Off season only means research, and we will break down a couple of Big 12 football teams later on during the shows. We kind of recap Big 12 football media days. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. T-Chains on the controls, and Anthony Smith is behind the camera. I just asked my stepson to bring me a coffee during that last commercial break. I said, hey, we'll be mid-segment, but you can bring it to me. I thought he'd be real excited about it, maybe like get a little glimpse of him in the shot. He just gave me a hard no.
Wow.
Hard no, which I can respect. His mood units are low. He's running low on mood, so no coffee this morning, at least for now.
Oh, interesting. I don't think I'd give the kid the option to say no, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, how would
Ask
you
him if it's
read?
a roof over his house.
See, and that's
For a
it.
sec.
That's what I was looking for. WWAD. What would Ari do?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
How,
No, that no is not an acceptable answer in this situation.
okay, how can I reframe that?
Um, I would have just turned the no into a yes. Oh, you said no, but you meant yes. I've got a tent. You can pitch that outside if you'd like to keep living in this under this roof. No? Cool. Yeah. Bring me the coffee then. And
I
make
like
it
that.
snappy.
That's the play. All right, 15 minutes from now, I'm going to have an update because I'm going to use that word for word, Pro Football Focus, which we have, I would say, mixed reviews on Pro Football Focus because, Ari, you've noted this over the years. Like, nobody really knows what goes into their metrics, but their metrics say that the Big 12's best returning arm or quarterback belongs to a guy who's never played a single FBS Division One snap, and that would be Jaden Craig at TCU. They put out a graphic, their top graded returning Big 12 quarterbacks. Jaden Craig is at the top. Drew Mestamaker is number two. So two newcomers, 1 and 2, and then Noah Fafita's at 3, Devin Dampier's at 4. Liam O'Brien, who's expected to be the backup and basically played in one game, which was the bowl game last year for Cincinnati, came in 5th. And then Bear Bachmeyer and Will Hammond, the preseason favorites, BYU and Texas Tech, check in at number 6 and number 7. What's the number one headline, the catch when it comes to this list, in your opinion?
I mean, I think that the most credible number on this list is probably Devin Dampier, because I mean Jaden Craig. I'm optimistic about him, but I mean he's putting up those numbers against the Ivy League. Drew Mestamaker, same thing, right? I mean, will he have the same numbers? Will those guys have the same numbers? Playing a Big 12 schedule as opposed to Ivy League or American, and Liam O'Brien as well. Now, O'Brien's funny because he's the backup to JC French, so Cincinnati has two guys on this list, and the starter is the one that's 15th out of 16. But O'Brien is another Ivy League transfer as well from Penn. So same kind of thing where how much weight do you put on his numbers given that they occurred against Penn defenses? Like that is probably the most prevalent takeaway for me is like maybe the best, most credible numbers on here come from Fafita, Dampier, and Bachmeyer because they all appeared against Big 12 opponents.
And great catch on the Cincinnati backup. He's not even the kid that played in the bowl game that was on the roster last year. With Craig and Mestamaker being 1 and 2, like Craig didn't return to anything. He's a Harvard transfer who walks into a program without ever taking an FBS snap, and he's going to open the season in Dublin against North Carolina. Mestamaker's a similar story where he's returning 0 snaps wearing a power conference uniform. But if this held up, like this could really reshape what the Big 12 would look like, because it's fascinating to me that the two favorites, and I don't necessarily think this would be a good thing for the league if this held up, because I think naturally you want your best players at the most important position to be spearheading your best teams. So if BYU and Texas Tech are the two teams that are favored to play for the title, quarterbacks being number 6 and number 7 in the Big 12, I don't think is a good thing. I think you would want those guys definitely top 5 and maybe even top 3.
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess here's my question to you, because as we've discussed with Pro Football Focus, like they're flawed, but it's just like any other stat, right? It's all you got to have the necessary weight and context associated with every number. I think when you kind of throw up like a rankings of like here's the quarterbacks with the highest PFF grades heading into a season, like the highest graded returning Big 12 quarterbacks, and then it has Jaden Craig, Drew Mestamake, right? Like it just like it feels like a really bad graphic because it's a lot. You have to look at what are they trying to tell you? What are the stats trying to tell you? And in this case, like it's just a very incomplete grouping. I mean, really the most complete aspect of this would be the Big 12 returning Big 12 quarterbacks because their numbers are weighted against again Big 12 defenses. The major, I mean, Will Hammond, right, 78.8, seventh in the Big 12 returning. How much weight do you put on that, right? So there's a lot of incomplete about these numbers. Jalen Rayner did this at Arkansas State, so is that's a Sun Belt team, right? Arkansas State's still in the Sun Belt.
Yeah.
It's hard to keep track of where all these teams are now. I don't know. Maybe they're in the Pac-12 now. I don't know. But so I mean, one, two, three, four of these guys on this list in the top 10, four of them, 40%, are transferring up. So their grade is against a group of six opponents. And then another one, Will Hammond, is a complete incomplete because it's very limited in terms of the sample. So literally half of the players in the top 10 on this graphic, you kind of got to like take their numbers with a grain of salt given the context.
Like if this list held up, because I really like what TCU has done with their new offensive coordinator, their dedication to establishing the ground game and not turning the ball over. I think they're very underrated defensively. If Jaden Craig is the best quarterback in this conference, TCU is a 9 or a 10 win football team. If Drew Mestamaker is a top 2 quarterback in this conference for Oklahoma State, they're probably a 7, 8, or 9 win football team. Now, at number 3, Noah Fafita stands out to me because I think he's probably properly ranked and maybe could even be a little bit higher. Like his rating compared to his touchdown to interception ratio, his completion percentage, and then just kind of the it factor, which I know, this is very much an analytics metrics based rating, so that wouldn't play into it. But like Noah Fafita to me is a top 3 quarterback. But this list also says, like, if Connor Wegman is 10th and Avery Johnson is 8th at Kansas State this year, I expect upticks from both of those guys. It would be hard for me to realistically say Kansas State's a top 4 team, Houston's a top 4 team in this conference if their quarterback play is that modest in a league with 16 signal callers.
Yeah. Wegman, 74.4, which was 10th and mostly was driven by rushing. If you dig deeper, his passing grade was just a 63.5. So not a great number. And I mean, I think that's what's dragging it down. Now the hope from what we've heard out of Houston is the optimism around Shadre Hurst and their offensive line. That's the key because they didn't feel confident in Wegman's ability to have enough time to spread the ball down the field. So like we've talked a ton about this with Wegman this offseason. Houston fans feel like Wegman is completely underrated, and I get it, but he just didn't show enough of an ability to stretch the field last year. Every throw and the majority of his completions were underneath or in the middle of the field, in that range. Nothing really deep into that deep third. So I think that's what the Wegman grade is about.
So to play devil's advocate, and I agree with everything you said, does this translate to wins? Like looking at last year's Pro Football Focus ratings, where would Sawyer Robertson be at Baylor? Baylor goes 5-7. Sawyer Robertson on paper still had a really good year. Now it didn't translate when it came to the NFL draft and how NFL scouts felt about him. But is there anybody on this list that could be a top 3 quarterback, but maybe they don't play for the best team? Because my mind automatically goes to if you've got a top 3 quarterback, you're winning a ton of football games. But then that wasn't the case at Baylor last year with Robertson.
Yeah, and look, I mean, I think so. There's a few things like the predictive components that are factored in. Turnover worthy play rate, that's a predictor of future. Big time throw rate. Those are two I think that translate year over year in terms of being predictors. So Julian Lewis, his profile, 6.1% big time throw rate against just 1.7% turnover worthy play rate as a true freshman. That I think factors into me a lot better than the very pedestrian 72.1 overall grade. And Boley at 59.4 with 12 interceptions at Kentucky is the number to most likely stay ugly because, again, the turnover worthy play part was huge. Now, with Dillingham, maybe it changes because Dillingham is so good with quarterbacks. But I think sometimes you got to look deeper at these numbers and what's being factored into these numbers. We don't know everything, but certainly that is part of it.
Yeah. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. Coming up next, it's a Stand on Business. It's also a Power Ranking Wednesday. You're listening to us exclusively on TuneIn. We are brought to you by Modelo, and you're watching us on Big 12 Studios.
Time
Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio. Brought to you, the full-time fan, by our friends at Modelo. Norm Roberts is going to join us, the college basketball analyst for ESPN and NBC, former head coach at St. John's, longtime assistant at Kansas, because he just spent 75 minutes breaking down the Big 12 conference with the guys at Field of 68. And we'll touch on a little Big 12 basketball offseason preview coming up in about 15 minutes. But each and every Wednesday, back in the saddle for power rankings. It's been a minute since we power ranked anything. So today we dive back in. We are somewhat fresh off of Big 12 football media days. So for lack of a better term, I was trying to come up with a fancy headline for basically who won the room at Big 12 media days. We talked to a ton of players, over 40 or 50 players at Big 12 football media days. So I'd love to know your top 5 guys that just stood out to you, that impressed you in one way or another, and why. So, Ari, you have the floor. Taman's got the big voice. Let's do it.
Number 5.
Wow. Wow. First off, congratulations to my co-host, James Westling, who, without any assistance, was able to introduce the power ranking segment today. Because remember, it's not good enough to just have things in this world. You have to power rank them accordingly. And so that's what we do on Wednesdays, James.
That's what we do. That's what we do on Wednesdays. We do it accordingly.
Number 5 for me is Jaden Craig. But I mean, of course, he's, incredible to talk to and fun to talk to. And you leave a conversation optimistic about him, right? I mean, he went to Harvard. He's a Harvard grad, for crying out loud. He was the smartest guy in the room, literally and figuratively. So number 5, Jaden Craig, TCU quarterback. You mentioned this when we were talking about this at the PFF grades, but I'm just really anxious to see what this looks like.
Same. Because if he lives up to the hype, TCU has a very different season. All right, number 5 for me is Jaden Bellamy, a cornerback for UCF. He was kind of quiet and soft-spoken, but he doesn't play like that. He is very much all over the place. He's very animated with his celebrations for pass breakups or interceptions. Transfer from Syracuse 2 years ago, who's been an instant lockdown corner for a top 4 passing defense. He had 8 pass breakups last year, trying to kind of set the tone for more takeaways this season. That was one of UCF's biggest weaknesses, is they didn't get a ton of turnovers. And he said that the corners are drilling to catch the ball versus just breaking it up. So we'll see if it translates. But Jaden Bellamy, big fan, cornerback UCF.
Also important to note that, you and I, along with Taylor McHarg, weren't in on every interview. So some of these might be a reflection of the players that we were able to interview, and as opposed to obviously the ones we weren't.
Number 4.
This one was tough, but Danny Scudero, the wide receiver for Colorado, because I'm looking through and trying to recap and remember every player we talked to, but Scudero just has this genuine joy. There's obviously a credibility based on what he's done, but he's clearly got a lot to prove at this level, and I think a willingness to do it, as he's had to do every step of the way. I think he's the type that just wakes up with an edge because he's had to in his entire career. And again, I think he was a lot of fun to talk to. Danny Scudero, the wide receiver for Colorado, led the league led the nation in receiving last year, and he's number 4 on my list.
Yeah, he's going to be a problem for Big 12 defenses. I have a wide receiver at number 4 as well. I go with Jaden Bray at West Virginia. Comes from a military family. He is incredibly smart, super intelligent. He's working on his 3rd degree at West Virginia. But also, so West Virginia is retiring Pat White's number 5 jersey. And Pat White, personally asked them to delay that one more season so that Jaden Bray could wear number 5, which says a lot about how West Virginia, the West Virginia fraternity, feels about Bray. And remember, he had a huge opener last year. He had 8 or 9 catches over 100 yards, and then he got injured week 2 and was out for the rest of the season. So if he's healthy, would love to see what a full year of work looks like for Jaden Bray at West Virginia.
Number 3.
Number 3 for me is DJ Lagway, the Baylor quarterback. I really enjoyed talking to him. really great personality, humble kid, soft spoken, but has a very high level of confidence despite again being more soft spoken and it's obvious. We talked a lot about the fact that he organized a trip for a good portion of the skill position players to go to Florida, and he rented out a place where everybody was staying and helped get a flight. Really great leadership thing that Lagway does. I think Lagway also recognizes that, like, yeah, he's got to step up in a way that, like, so far his career hasn't shown. And then we talked a lot with him about the VR headset, which I think is really interesting. So DJ Lagway number 3 for me.
I love that VR headset. My top three are also going to be quarterbacks. Number three for me is Houston quarterback Connor Wegman. This was a 5-star recruit out of high school who I think with all the injuries has been humbled to a certain degree. I just loved the way he carried himself. He's not a super, for lack of a better term, he doesn't radiate arrogance. He has kind of a quiet confidence. And Willie Fritz kind of made him the story this offseason with him being fully healthy for the first time in his career. So he's added a bunch of strength. He's added some velocity, which means Houston could have a stronger downfield passing attack. And then when we asked him about Keyshawn Henderson, the way he talked about leading and mentoring him, the 5-star freshman coming in, really liked what I heard from Connor Wegman, who had somewhat of a breakout year last year and could be even better for Houston.
It's a good one.
Number 2.
Number 2 for me is Bear Bachmeyer. We've interviewed Bear a few times. He's fun to talk to, but it's funny because I remember talking with Spencer and Linton a few times about it, and it's like he's like, "Oh yeah, isn't Bear funny?" And I was like, "Huh?" He's not really seen that side of him. He's way more serious with us. So I think because I called him out for that, he really let loose a little bit. We got to see a lot of his personality. I think this is a guy that could be the best passer in the Big 12 this year. So I'm excited for Bear, and he was fun to talk to.
In his best game last year was his last game, the bowl game, when he was the bowl game MVP. A lot of times that carries over, especially for like younger players. Number 2 for me is Avery Johnson, the K-State quarterback, and it kind of piggybacks off of what his coach, Colin Klein, said when we asked him about how many carries ideally the quarterback should have because he's the fastest guy on K-State's team, and it felt like he didn't have enough touches last year. And I liked what Avery said about, I want to be under 200. I want to be over, I think he said 150. And so sometimes when you try to get that quarterback run game involved, you can almost sway or lean the opposite end of the spectrum too much to the point where it hurts your team. And I just liked his confidence and his swagger. And really for the first time, it felt like, okay, this is a guy who's ready to lead a football team. K-State's kind of a trendy pick right now to be a dark horse, and I could see why after talking with Avery.
Number 1.
Number 1 for me is Bryce Pollock, the corner from Texas Tech, who called me out for not including him on his list, though we let him know who we were. But he said that somebody sent him the video of our top 5 corners in the Big 12 as we did our off-season work, and that somebody forgot to put him on the list, and so we had a lot of fun with that. Pollock has a great personality, great guy. Enjoyed talking with him, and he's a star in this league. And I mean, if he has a good year this year, this is a first-round pick.
And the guy that was with him, Terrence Carter, could potentially be a top 3 tight end. And his goal is to be the number 1 tight end in the country, win all the awards, and be a first or a second round NFL draft pick. The Texas Tech players for really the second year in a row, because I remember talking to Jacob Rodriguez and Romello Height and those guys last year thinking, okay, this team is legit. And I felt the same way this season. Number 1 for me is DJ Lagway, who you had on your list. The VR headset is super cool, but also he was the polar opposite of everything that I think has been painted of him, because he was the number 1 player out of high school. He's massive. He looks like a linebacker. I couldn't tell the difference between him and Kylan Reed. But when you sit down next to him, he's very smart. He's very soft-spoken. And just the way he carried himself felt like a guy that you want to naturally root for. He's not like super loud and vocal, but I think his teammates are going to rally behind that. And so I put him number 1 because he was a guy that I feel very differently about now, and that this Baylor project could maybe work. All right, that's our top five Big 12 players at Media Days. Is today David Spade's birthday?
Today is David Spade's birthday. Yes, of course. In my house, it's a huge deal.
So we rank our top five David Spades, which would be our top five sidekicks or Scottie Pippins, if you will. Here on a Power Ranking Wednesday. Let's go for it, Taman.
Number 5.
All right, so our top five Pippins, our top five Robins. So I'm going to start number 5 with Dick Grayson, the real Robin. I mean, he's the OG, right? Like this list is now called the Ultimate Sidekick list or the Pippin list, but it really started as the Robin list. I mean, the reality is Robin as a sidekick kind of sucked. Like Batman benched him a lot, like there's a few Robin instances, but for the most part, Batman was like, "Hey, Robin, let us take care of this." So Robin is very old. He's out with the old, but he's still the OG of this thing. So number 5 for me, Robin, Dick Grayson.
Robin is Robin. Number 5 for me is Dustin Diamond, who was Screech on Saved by the Bell, because he was the only cast member who appeared in every single episode of the original series. And then he did a bunch of spin-offs. He did the college years and the new class. He is the longest running single character of anybody on that show, and it's not even close, but he was definitely not number 1.
Number 4.
Number 4 for me is Luigi. In 5 decades as player 2 to his own brother. First of all, he's bigger. He can jump faster or jump higher. He has his own franchise with a mansion, and yet he still has to sit in the shadow of his brother. Luigi was always my favorite growing up. I liked green over red. He's taller. He's better. He's Luigi. He should be the main guy, not Mario. But in this case, we're ranking the secondary guys, and that would be Luigi for sure.
Man, your list is already so dynamite. Number 4 for me, I'm going to go with Chris Tucker, because Chris Tucker was always kind of like the other guy, the funny guy. And when he was in Friday back in 1995, he made $10,000 for that movie. Jump forward a few years, in Rush Hour, he made $20 million. It was like one of the fastest paycheck jumps in Hollywood history. And then he actually turned down Next Friday because he had his own like religious/content concerns about it. But he always kind of felt like the sidekick and just about like the funny guy and everything that he did. But that dollar amount just blew me away.
Number 3.
Yeah, it almost makes him seem like not a secondary guy, but I think Chris Tucker is very much so a secondary guy. So good call there. Number 3 for me, this is where I'm going to put Chewbacca. Chewie. Do you have a good Chewie impression, James?
No,
Have you ever seen Star Wars?
you know that. I have not seen it. I'm anti-Star Wars. Now, if you want to talk about Interstellar, just watched it over the break. Phenomenal.
It's basically the same movie.
Pretty
Yeah.
much.
I mean, yeah, 100%. Who doesn't conflate those two? They're totally the same thing.
It's like Star Wars, Matthew McConaughey and Matt Damon, all the same.
Yeah. No, Interstellar is a great movie. Having nothing to do with Star Wars. When he's screaming, that part where it comes full circle, where he heard the noise by the fireplace, and then he's screaming on the other side of it because he's trying to get her. Yeah, pretty cool. Chewbacca. Yeah, he flew the ship. He fixed the ship. He helped win fights. He got stiffed at the medal ceremony. Chewie should not be a secondary guy, but certainly is to Han freaking Solo. Chewbacca, number 3.
Loser. All
Loser.
right. Number 3 for me, and I talk about this guy. He seems to come up in conversation on this show casually all the time. Big Shot Bob. Robert Ory. 7 championship rings, 3 different franchises, was never the main guy. Really, maybe not even the Pippin, almost like the third character coming off the bench. But to have your own coined Big Shot Bob for a string of just epic, iconic, clutch shots for 3 different franchises, the Rockets, the Lakers, the Spurs, Like his stats aren't going to blow you away. He was 6'11". He could shoot the three. Nobody better late game situations from the top of the key than Robert Ory.
Number 2.
Number 2 for me is David Spade. Happy birthday to David Spade, the ultimate second guy. He was the straight guy to Chris Farley's wild, rocky tornado. And Tommy Boy and Black Sheep are basically the same movie, told two different ways, and they're both hilarious. So hard not to include the ultimate sidekick here, David Spade.
Love it. Love it. All right, number 2 for me. How do you feel about Manu Ginobili? He's got those 4 rings with the Spurs, but he kind of hid behind Tim Duncan. But he was so good that they don't win those titles without him, where I think with Scottie Pippen, MJ still gets a couple of rings even if he doesn't have Scottie. But like Manu was the 57th overall pick back in 1999, an afterthought who ends up in the Hall of Fame. Also led Argentina to a massive upset win over Team USA in the 2004 Olympic semis. So Manu Ginobili at number 2.
Yeah, some people think I look like Manu Ginobili. And when he was drafted, he was announced as Emmanuel Ginobili.
Well, you have a much better hairline.
Yeah, better hairline, same nose, but I don't know, a foot shorter, maybe less. Yeah, everything else is the same though.
Dude, I could totally see it though. How are we just discovering this? And how are you not Manu Ginobili every year for Halloween?
Good question. When I was covering the Spurs, I would be in the locker room and I would hold a microphone in Manu's face and I'd give him all like the, huh? Yeah? Us? Yeah? Uh-huh? Yeah? No? Okay, cool.
Did he ever lean into it? How did he respond?
No. Yeah, he super nice guy, by the way. Extremely nice. Made the Spurs a lot of fun to cover, but
that's awesome.
Yeah. Man, you did 2 sidekick basketball players and didn't include like the 2 ultimate sidekick basketball players here. So like one would be Klay Thompson, who had 4 rings playing off of Steph Curry, but the ultimate is Scottie Pippen. I would completely disagree that Michael gets a championship without Scottie. Scottie is maybe the most underrated NBA player of all time simply because he played with Michael, but he was elite. I mean, 6'7" for his size. I mean, if you think about the modern 3-and-D wing, that's Scottie. And yet Scottie could do way more than that. But in an age in the 90s where you just didn't have those 6'7" wings that could shoot, play defense at a very high level, be long. Scottie in many ways invented that position that's now very, very widespread across the NBA. Scottie Pippen number 1 for me, the ultimate sidekick.
I have Scottie Pippen number 1 as well. And the 1997-98 season, his last year in Chicago, and this was documented during the Last Dance documentary series, he was the 122nd highest paid player in the league. He was making less than half of what Shawn Kemp and Christian Laettner were making that season, and that was arguably his best year. And then he finally got paid when he went to, was it Portland, I think? He bounced around a little bit his last few years. Got this massive contract and got hurt. It's a really sad story, honestly. I can see why he's so angry about his lack of compensation when he was with the Bulls.
Yeah. He's also referred to as No Tippin' Pippen, and I'm here to confirm that that is the case with Mr. Scottie Pippen.
No tipping, like he doesn't tip ever?
Yeah, no, he doesn't believe in it. He didn't. Still probably doesn't. Also once sent out the dogs on my friends and I when we were young kids. But, you know, who's counting? He's still number 1 on my list.
Gotta love some Scotty. All right.
Big
12. Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio. Speaking of basketball, we will dive into our Big 12 basketball offseason preview because Norm Roberts just spent over an hour with the guys at Field of 68 previewing the league. ESPN has their way too early top 25 college basketball poll. Kansas just added a Serbian, I believe, an international prospect who's expected to be a big part of their front line. We'll break all that down. Coming up next, he's Artie, I'm James, and we are listened to exclusively on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios.
Wickman looking that direction and it's picked off. UCF with the interception. It's Philip Dunham out past the 45. UCF shows pressure. Down goes Martin in the backfield. Philip Dunham Blitz coming by UCF. Whitman has to get rid of it. Throws a pick. Another pick. And another pick six. It's Philip Dunham doing it. To get to about the 6-yard line to extend the drive, and they cannot. Philip Dunham, who has a sack and now a pass breakup, came to play this afternoon. We've been thrown on second down, looking for Thomas. He's picked off. It's Dunham again. His third interception of the game.
And a pick in the first quarter and a pick six. Throw to the end zone, to the seam, knocked away. Here's Dunham again. He's the leader on the back end for the Knights.
Teams have come costly times for both sides. Tunnel screen blown up. Philip Dunham, the FAU transfer.
Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio, heard exclusively on TuneIn, powered by our friends at Modelo, where there is no offseason. The offseason only means research, and we have spent a ton of time going through various series to get you ready for the 2026 college football season in the Big 12. But when it comes to basketball, and the coach, Norm Roberts, will be with us here in about 15 minutes because he sat down with the guys at Field of 68. They did over an hour, previewing the Big 12. And I think the general consensus from those guys and maybe nationally so far in basketball is that there's not really like a national title favorite or contender in the Big 12 this year. They seem to think that like the league's strength is coaching depth. And you and I have talked a lot about this elite recruiting class that really for the second year in a row, you could argue that the Big 12 has more top NBA ready freshmen in this conference than anybody else. But let's start with the national title talk. Like, do you agree that there's not really like a title contender in this league?
I think Arizona is. I mean, you've got the preseason Big 12 Player of the Year, in my opinion, in Krivas. I mean, shot 57% from the floor. Is an inside acre. I mean, opponents shot 7% worse and scored 14 fewer points per 100 possessions with him on the floor. So I think Krivas is sort of underrated in terms of as a returner. And then obviously we know about Karchenkov, who's also back. Yeah, they lose, a couple of freshmen to the NBA draft, but they add Caleb Holt. Derek Dixon transfers in from North Carolina. JJ Mandaquate comes in from Washington. So I would definitely put Arizona in that mix because I think you've got to have, obviously a good recruiting class coming in, talent there. They do. You got to have, transfer depth, talent as well. And then, I mean, for the returning players, talk about two really good two-way players and arguably one of the best in the league in Krivas. So I would say Arizona for sure is.
Yeah, totally agree. I think two teams would be part of the probably 8 to 10 at this time of the year that I would identify as teams that could win a national championship, and it would be Arizona and Houston. Like Arizona has more coming back this season on paper than they did at this time last year. Like Jaden Bradley was not an all Big 12 caliber player 2 seasons ago. Nobody knew anything about Koa Pete or Ivan Karchenkov. Mo Krivas had kind of been injury plagued. But for next season, Krivas is now an anchor on the inside. Karchenkov, one thing about him, and I think he's going to take a massive step forward. Like he is built like a Mack truck. Like he looks like he's NBA ready. But they're going to play him at the 4. They're going to be a little more guard oriented, which tells me that they're going to be even more up tempo, maybe shoot more threes. I think Caleb Holt and just the way he plays, he can shoot it from anywhere, could make Arizona look differently this season. And then with Houston, this might be like Kelvin Sampson has said, this is the most NIL they've ever had. So on paper, with that and the way he identifies talent, and the guys that started to see more minutes towards the tail end of last year, this might be his most talented team. My only question with that is the way he coaches, can it all come together for the NCAA tournament? But those two teams, like right away, instant, I think national championship contenders or should be in the conversation.
Well, I mean, Kansas will be very interesting. You mentioned Houston, Iowa State. I also think like this year is different from the standpoint of like basically Arizona to me is the top. They're tier 1. And then I think you have like Houston, Kansas, Iowa State, Baylor, BYU, West Virginia, Texas Tech, Oklahoma State. And then like I'm really intrigued by Cincinnati. I'm very intrigued by Arizona State. I'm very intrigued by TCU. And then at the bottom, like I think K-State and Utah, like Utah makes sense to me at the bottom. They were really bad last year. How much better have they gotten? And Kansas State with the new coaching staff. But like, man, West Virginia, that could be an elite top tier Big 12 team that is a potential Final Four team. Texas Tech, it seems like every year under Grant McCasland is. And remember, JT Toppin. So I'd also sort of put Tech in that conversation in terms of being title contenders because if Toppin is back, I mean, that is as good of a two-way player as they have in the Big 12.
Well, in Texas Tech, when you look at their transfers under Grant McCasland, they're another one of those programs where their transfers are better at Texas Tech than their last stop. JT Toppin was freshman of the year in the Mountain West. He gets to Texas Tech, and he's an all Big 12 player. Donovan Atwell was a 8, 9, 10 point per game guy at UNC Greensboro, led the Big 12 and made threes last year, an elite shooter, a top 5 shooter in the country. And then Lawan Watts was a guy that was like a 10-point per game, 6 rebound per game guy at Washington State. Didn't really have a ton of suitors. He gets to Texas Tech, and he's a huge part of their team. So the transfers like Cruz Davis coming in from Hofstra, 20-point per game guy. The kid they got from UNLV, 20-point per game guy. Those numbers will be hard to match, but that tells me like they can play at this level, or they wouldn't have been pursued as hard as Texas Tech went after those guys.
Yeah, and then Baylor, Baylor has been fairly down, in recent history relative to what they were, winning a national championship. Very intriguing now with the Mingo brothers. Caden Mingo transfers in from Penn State. Dylan Mingo is a five-star. Their dad joins Scott Drew's staff. I love Brett Decker, who's one of the best shooters in college basketball. Shot 47% from three on 7 attempts last year. So, and then we didn't see high point 7-footer Jocelyn Bodo last year. He missed all of last year with an injury. For me, he's very intriguing in terms of being a 7-footer and a guy that they really haven't had the last couple of years and have needed. Baylor is very intriguing to me because I think this is a year that they could very well return to national relevance.
Yeah. I mean, definitely last season, what were they lacking? They were lacking a point guard, right? They had Cameron Carr on the wing. They had Yesufu. Like, they had NBA ready players, but they didn't have a guy that was a catalyst that could get them the ball. So they went and they inked their backup point guard, who will be the backup this year, Isaiah Williams, to a 2-year deal. He was fine as a depth piece. And then they bring in 2 point guards in the Mingo brothers. They can both play the point. One was a all Big Ten player at Penn State. The other is a 5-star, like top 5 player nationally. I'm with you on Baylor. How about Kansas? Because ESPN just had Kansas as number 23, and they're way too early, preseason top 25. These guys on the field of 68. What they said about KU is basically it's Tyron Stokes and everybody else. They think KU is going to look like BYU did at the end of last year, where they just give it to Stokes and hope he goes for 40. They're concerned about KU's depth.
Yeah, KU is interesting. Added a lot of size. They brought in one of the best rebounders in college basketball, and Charleston transfer Christian Reeves, 7'2". Keanu Dawes was one of the top rebounders in the Big 12 from Utah. He joins Kansas. Also, Kansas sort of quietly added a 24-year-old Serbian 7-footer named Mihailo Musikic. It remains to be seen if he's going to be eligible, but I mean, 2 7-footers, Keanu Dawes, they're going to be a considerably better rebounding team. But I think, there's still major question marks about their perimeter scoring. This is something I want to talk to Norm Roberts about because they've not been in really in the last few years in an era of 3-point shooting. They've not been a high volume, high percentage 3-point shooting team. Does that change? Do they have the right pieces to have that change? I'm excited. I think from a roster standpoint, this is as good of a roster as they've had in the last few years, but they've been one and done the last couple of years, and it's not been good for Bill Self, really since winning that national championship in terms of, getting back to Final Fours and even competing at that level. Like there's a high standard at Kansas, but even there, it feels like they haven't even gotten close to reaching that standard.
Well, like Taylor Kinney is a name to remember.
Yeah,
He's an
Taylor
elite
Kinney,
freshman,
Yep.
and he can really score
But
and distribute.
he's, so that's my other thing is, so Leroy Blyden comes in from Toledo. Is he a legit point guard? Is he more of a scorer? And then Kinney, same kind of thing. Like, do they have an actual point guard on the roster? Is Tyron Stokes getting on the ball? I think that's really interesting too. But yeah, Kinney and Stokes are both top recruits. Blyden comes in from Toledo. I think he's a big time shooter and playmaker, but I'm not sure about their primary ball handling.
Yeah, I'm really high on Blyden as well. And then, last year we identified that teams that had the biggest rosters, the biggest front lines, were the teams that were making deep runs in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
So that'll be Arizona this year. That'll be Kansas if they can get this Serbian kid cleared. And then BYU has done a really nice job of getting bigger and taller. Kevin Young has been very outspoken about adding height. So BYU's super interesting to me as well. It's going to be a fun year.
Well, and Iowa State to a degree too, because remember, Dominicus Plato comes back, Blake Buchanan, 2 of their bigs come back, so that they'll have an intriguing front court. That's not, I didn't even mention any of the guys they had in the portal in terms of their front court. And then Houston. Have we talked about Houston yet?
I think they're a national championship contender.
Do you?
Yes.
This is
This is the
as unique of a roster as Kelvin Sampson has ever had, given the players that he's lost.
but I think it's the most talented. And remember, like 2 years ago, that team was 4-3 in the non-conference. The same year that Arizona started 4-5 in the non-conference and went to the Sweet 16. So like it's going to be early, even in December when we're talking about these teams. I love what Houston has done.
And I mean, so Houston adds Dedan Thomas. We've talked a lot about him. They add,
Gillespie from Kent State.
yep, Gillespie's another one they add. Big time player there. Delreco Gillespie.
Yep.
That's the Kent State player they added. Arafan Diane, big time rebounder. Lamar's Braden East, another front court player. Joseph Tugler returns. So, yeah, I guess I'd put them in the title contender conversation just based on Kelvin Sampson's credibility alone. But I'm anxious to see them because I just don't. This is a brand new situation for Kelvin Sampson. I'm intrigued by that.
Yeah, me and you both. Iowa State, Arizona, Houston, some familiar faces, but a lot of newcomers. Cannot wait to see what these guys look like. Speaking of Iowa State, Norm Roberts is really high on the Cyclones, the former longtime assistant at KU and head coach at St. John's. He's going to join us next. Norm will be on the program. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling on TuneIn, powered by Modelo and watched on Big 12 Studios.
Blitz coming, jailbreak, and they run the perfect play. It's small. He's big. He's down inside the 5 to the 1. BJ Payne tripped him up to save the touchdown. What an effort here.
And there it is. They fake the handoff and to the backside. And another tackle for loss at the 20, this time by BJ Payne. They tried to get the man on the edge on the far side, and VJ was having none of it.
It's always about how you finish. Kobe Williams hit by Payne.
Second down. And he'll make you pay. Handoff. Parker gets stuffed, stays on his feet, and now he's going to go down.
12th play of the drive. Hands off to Hishaw. Steps through an ankle tackle and rumbles below the 30. BJ Payne finally got him to the turf.
Kansas State going to try and put some pressure on him. Floor steps up, floats one toward the end zone, does not have a receiver there. And that's an interception to end the half. BJ Payne with his first interception of the year.
4th downs this year. A big one in this second half. Brown stopped originally, and the ball comes out. Is the play dead, though? The whistles came after the ball came out.
Back inside Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. Ari Timken, James Westling, and the coach, Norm Roberts, joins us here on Big 12 Radio. And if this show was in the afternoon, Coach would be joining us from the golf course, but it's in the morning. So, Coach, let me ask you this. If you and Bill Self were on the course and you're betting $1 a hole, who walks away with more money at the end of the day?
Bill Self does, without a doubt. He's about an 8 or a 9, and I'm like a 18 or 19. So he's gonna beat me pretty bad, but he'd have to give me a couple of strokes at least.
So you're there for the cigars and fellowship, which is the best way.
Oh, you know what? I stopped playing golf, stopped betting money because I was always losing money. So now I enjoy golf a lot better.
Way less pressure. I'm with you on that. Norm coached at KU, coached at St. John's, does work for ESPN and NBC, and was on the field of 68 previewing the Big 12. So what are some of the headlines when it comes to the Big 12? We just spent about 20 minutes doing our breakdown. I think the narrative is that there's not like a true title contender because the league is maybe more open this year at the top. But we see some programs that very much could be national championship contenders if we were putting together a list of 8 or 12 teams nationally.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But there has been so much turnover in the Big 12. I think they had 12 to 13 guys drafted last year out of the league, which is tremendous. So there's going to be a little bit of a turnover when that happens. I think you're still talking about the teams like Houston. You're still talking about Arizona. You're talking about Kansas. You're talking about an Iowa State who's going to be good. And I do think there's some sleeper teams in the league that could cause a lot of noise. And one could be a team like a TCU. Could be a team. They've had great retention, got guys back, almost 4 starters back. They could be a team that could cause people a lot of trouble.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. I think, West Virginia is a team that was on the upswing last year. At the end of last year, they've done well in the portal. I think Steve Lutz has done very, very well at Oklahoma State in the portal. That, coach, is to me the most intriguing part of the Big 12 is I think you probably have Arizona at the top with what they return in terms of being like preseason favorite and national championship contenders. I think you got to go to Houston, Kansas, Iowa State based on just what they've been able to do pretty consistently with their coaches. And then I think there's like a middle tier here with BYU and West Virginia and Texas Tech and TCU. And any of those teams could find themselves, I think, competing towards the top.
You may want to throw Cincinnati in there too. And Cincinnati did a great job. And, a lot of the teams have gotten in the portal, they've gotten a lot of really good mid-major plus guys that played at a high level at other places, such as the kid Riley at Tulsa, that's at Cincinnati now, Tejada, those guys. But can they play at that same level in the Big 12, night in and night out, with how big and strong and physical and talented the Big 12 is? So it remains to be seen. I thought Oklahoma State did a great job because they've got a lot of really good role players who played at high major schools. So let's see what those guys can do for them. And then you never know what the foreign kid element does to the league as well. I do think Arizona, who you may have at the top, they're going to have to play different. They're not going to be the bigger, stronger team. Last year, they were so big and strong. And then they developed the shooting later on. They also had a great point guard in Jaden Bradley. That's a lot to lose. And I think Derek Dixon's a very good player. I think Caleb Holt is a terrific kid. I recruited him, and he's an explosive player. He's not a shooter. So they have some good pieces, and obviously Krivas and Kurchenkov coming back are great pieces for them. But I think they're going to play more small ball with Kurchenkov at the 4 because they really, from what they've signed, unless they do something late here, they really don't have a power forward format.
Arizona fans are going to love some Caleb Holt. Watched him in the McDonald's All-American game and was just blown away by his length and his ability to get to the rim or anywhere he wants on the floor. There's a couple other teams I want to ask you about. You really like Iowa State, and Iowa State did most of their like portal work early on in the cycle. So that tells me that like the guys that they targeted, they got. So they've got big holes to fill. Who stands out when it comes to Iowa State?
I think TJ's done a great job. And what he's done is he's got the right pieces to put right in place for his team. The kid Singleton that they got from Northwestern, Trey Singleton, he is an absolute clone of Joshua Jefferson. They're very similar, 6'8", play out of perimeter, can handle the ball, can post, can really pass. Very, very similar players. They're going to plug him. He's a plug and play guy. I think the kid Jaquan Johnson, the little tough point guard from Bradley, he can really score. He's a pit bull. He can attack the basket. He can pressure defensively. There's your guy that's like Taman Lipsey, who they lost. But having Bateman back, who can really shoot the basketball. Buchanan played very good for them inside last year as a guy that can run to the rim and defend and those things. And then Toure can play on and off the ball, and he's one of the best defenders in the country. So I think they've done a great job in the portal, bringing the right pieces. Leon Bond is another guy from the University of Northern Iowa who's a guy that could be like Heisey. He could be exactly like Heisey, maybe even a little bit more athletic than him. So they've done a great job with putting their team together.
Curious from my alma mater, your thoughts on a place you spent a lot of time in Lawrence, Kansas, the KU Jayhawks, coming off disappointing seasons relative to their standard. Tyron Stokes is obviously the headliner, but what do you make of the makeup of this roster? I think losing. They bring Mbia back and then added a ton of size in the portal. Like, what's your read on this Jayhawk team?
Well, I would tell you this: Big Paul Mbia has gotten a lot better. He's gotten a lot better. He's more aggressive. I'm not saying he's a Joel Embiid or something like that. I'm not saying that at all. But I think they're going to get quality minutes out of him. Obviously, the other kid, Reeves, Christian Reeves, he's a big individual. He's all of 7'1". He's big. So they've got great size. If they can get 15 to 20 minutes out of both of those guys, that would be really good for them. If they could be productive in that way. Obviously, Tyron is a tremendous talent. He's a guy that can play on the ball, can play off the ball. You can post him. He could be a guy coming off ball screens. He could be a guy setting the ball screen and short rolling. They can do a tremendous amount of things, and coach is going to use him all over the place. He's actually a better shooter than I thought watching him in workouts. I think he shoots the ball a lot better. But one of the things that he really does is he's a terrific playmaker. He can really get shots for others. He makes his teammates better and those things. So I think he's a great talent. He's going to have an impact, like I said it on the show, Field of 68. He's going to have an impact like a Cameron Boozer. He's going to have to be that type of a guy that can help on both ends of the floor, and they can really rely on him in key situations like Duke did with Cameron Boozer.
Yeah, I'm curious. Kansas has not been a high volume, high percentage 3-point shooting team. Is that just based on personnel? Is it strategic, schematic? Give me your sense of why Kansas has not been a high volume, forget about the high percentage, high volume team, right, at 3-point shooting, like a lot of other teams might be. Again, is that personnel based or is that schematic?
I think that's more personnel based. Coach wants to shoot the three. He loves to shoot the ball from deep. When we had Devontae Graham and those guys, we let it fly with Steve Mikhailuk and those guys. I think it's been more personnel based. But I think this year, Leroy Blygen can really shoot the ball. He's a little undersized, but can shoot the ball. Another X factor for him is going to be Keanu Dawes. He is a freak athlete, and he has to be aggressive all the time. I said this to Coach. He reminds me, not as a player, but personality, he reminds me a little bit of Perry Ellis. And Perry Ellis was a terrific player, but it almost, at times, you felt like you had to poke Perry and piss him off. And then all of a sudden, Perry give you 25 and 12 rebounds. So Keanu's a little bit like that. He's got to learn to be aggressive at all times because he has NBA ability. I mean, he's an NBA talent type guy. I think that, obviously Cole Rosario is going to have to shoot the ball better for him. And the other guy that's a huge key is Taylor Kenny. He's a talented kid. He's going to remind people a little bit of a kind of a Devontae Graham. He's not a jet quick guy. He's got great size, got great change of pace, can make shots, can shoot the ball, really good passer. He's going to be a tremendous player for him too.
We've got Norm Roberts with us here on Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. The other team that we kind of identified as having a bounce-back season was Baylor. What are your thoughts on Baylor and the talent that they have and now what they have at the point guard position where they were sorely lacking last season, a distributor to all those NBA guys they had last year?
I think Baylor's going to be good. I'm not as high right now on them as some other people are. I think, and one of the main reasons is Baylor always used to have size. They had good size all the time. And the thing that's hurt them over the past couple of years is they have become very, very guard heavy. And they don't have the inside presence or even the lob rim catching guys that they normally would have or the shot blocking that they normally would have defensively. So I think, once again, Bodo's going to be a big key for them, the big guy inside. But he's got to be – now, he's never been a scorer. Never been a scorer at the mid-major level, shot blocker, good rebounder. So he'll give them that. I think the Mingo brothers are going to be very good. Caden had proven at Penn State that he could score and run a team. Dylan is not a point guard in my eyes. He's more of a combo, can play with the ball in his hands. But Dylan can do a lot of different things because he's got good size. Dylan's about 6'4", and he's long arms, very good defender. But coming in as a freshman, that's going to be tough to do if you don't have some more help with you. So I think they're going to be good. I think they're going to be relying on their perimeter quite a bit. If they can get some help inside, I think that's going to really bode well for them. But I think they're going to be good, but I think their inside guys are going to have to show you something.
Norm, awesome insight about all the newcomers in this league. Another really high-profile recruiting class coming into the Big 12. Enjoy the day. Thanks for your time, and we'll catch up, I'm sure, down the road when we get into hoop season.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I really appreciate you. Enjoy your summer.
You too.
Coach Norm Roberts here on
travels.
Big 12 today.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.
Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio. Norm coached at St. John's. He coached at Kansas forever. Nobody knows this league better than Norm Roberts. Breaking down our Big 12 off-season basketball catch-up session. Coming up next, we're 2 weeks off of Big 12 football media days. We'll have some team recaps. You'll hear from Dave Aranda. You'll hear from Willie Fritz as we highlight Houston and Baylor today. And then Brandon Whedon, former Heisman runner-up, Oklahoma State quarterback from the 2010s, will join us next hour on the program. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, powered by Modelo on TuneIn and Big 12 Studios.
Success with Craig. Deep drop for Fuda. Taking a shot to the end zone. Chris Hudson. He's got it for 6.
It's coming, but it's picked up. Over the middle line, deep cross, and it breaks wide open. T.O. Richardson, touchdown.
Will throw to the end zone, and what an attempt!
Alongside Ari Timken on social at RE Sports, ARI Sports. I'm James Westling on social at James Westling. We've got Taman Turner producing on the audio side, and Anthony Smith is behind the camera pushing all the buttons on the video side on Big 12 Studios. We are brought to you by Modelo, and we are just a couple of weeks removed from everything we learned at Big 12 Football Media Days at the Star in Frisco. To recap, over the next several days, we'll go through each and every team. You guys touched on a few teams the last couple of days. Today we highlight Houston and Baylor. So when it comes to those two programs, you noted earlier, Ari, that it was kind of a rotation. And so I missed out on the Dave Aranda conversation. As you think back, just kind of his vibe and what he had to say, like, are you believing in what he's selling in terms of Baylor turning things back around this year?
No, but doesn't matter what I think, and if I believe it, right? It only matters if that roster and that team does. I mean, number one, I like Dave. Dave Aranda is a great person. I think he's extremely smart. He knows and understands football to a large degree. I think he's a elite defensive coordinator, and he's yet to prove if he could be a elite head coach. But he's fun to talk to. Like, he's a deep thinker. He's very philosophical. He's extremely genuine when he talks. I think, one of the things that stands out to me about just his tenure in general is, that he's quick to change, and maybe in some cases too quick. And in some ways, maybe too introspective, mentioning that, like, hey, yeah, they spent too much money at skill position last year. So now they spent other money on the defensive side of the ball. This makes sense to me. But also, like, didn't you watch the team 2 years before and not recognize that you probably should be spending money on defense? Also, you probably just shouldn't be spending all your money in one place. I'd love for Dave Aranda to be successful. I know Baylor would love that too. Baylor loves Aranda, but they obviously love winning too. And those at this point have not gone one and the same. So it's a long-winded way of saying, like, I very much enjoy talking to Dave Aranda. I hope they have a successful year this year, but these types of situations rarely work out, and I hope they do. And again, like, every year, we hear a high level of introspection from Aranda, which I respect and think is great, but it's almost at this point, like, I almost don't buy it. Like, the first couple of times, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, for sure, but it feels like it's just more and more, and it's hard to buy that, like, oh yeah, they made the right choice there.
Yeah, with Baylor, it's really hard to pin down their identity. They've been no huddle. They've been massive on the defensive line during their Big 12 championship run season back in 2021. They've been chaotic defensively at times. Like, what is Baylor's identity? It seems to evolve, to your point, year over year, and it'll have to evolve into a better defense this season. Here's what Dave Aranda said about the new defensive coordinator who comes in from Kansas State, Joe Klanderman, how he runs the defense and what the players think.
This is Joe's, yeah. And so everything I can do to support him and his vision for it, but this is Joe's, yeah. And so Joe's one of those guys, man, where he's just a great person and a great coach.
So it makes it easy.
And yeah, and so it's like it's rare. We were talking about it earlier, where I think it's rare to have people that are really good people, but then skill-wise, they're really, really strong at their skills. Usually there's really good skill people that just play the game on the people side of it.
Yeah.
And then there's the people that do that, probably overdo it and don't pay any attention to the skill level. But when you have someone that's high on both levels,
right,
we need some more of that. Now, we got Jake Spavital, which does a great job on offense. The guys love playing for him. DJ Lagway loves playing for him. And you could see that right away with Joe, is that guys are gravitating to him, want to be in his office, want to be coached hard, want to be pushed. And so that all speaks to who he is as a person.
Yeah, I loved this clip from Miranda. And it just brings a lot of thoughts to my mind immediately. Like, talking about, like, yeah, I mean, Joe Klanderman is just he's an elite dude, like, great person. And then also, he's not putting on a show. Like, he's a real people person. I thought that was really good in terms of, like, some coaches will kind of, like, present themselves as people, but as liking people, but I don't, I don't know that that's true. Just thought it was a really good way and insight into looking at the personalities of different coaches. And look, there's no arguing with Joe Klanderman's success.
And I think for the defense to be better, you have to turn everything over to Klanderman, which it sounds like Aranda has done. Like this has to be Joe Klanderman's defense, which will look very different this season. At Kansas State, it was bend but don't break. It's kind of a 4-2-5, 3-3-5 hybrid, depending upon personnel. And Baylor has personnel. Like Jacob Redding was a top 5 safety in this league. LeVar Thornton Jr. is an elite corner that NFL scouts love, but Baylor still found themselves out of alignment, out of position, getting burned on explosive plays. Offensively, there shouldn't be, hopefully, for Baylor fans, much of a downtick in terms of explosive plays because they bring in DJ Lagway at quarterback. Here's what Coach Aranda said about the mindset and the trust and all that chemistry that Lagway has with his teammates.
Way connected. So goes out to eat with the O-line, goes out to eat with the receivers, goes and takes them and goes 7-on-7 with them consistently. We have a VR machine, which a few people have. And, there's different programs that do it. There's a few in college football. There's some NFL teams that do it. And we got an email a month ago saying that we're set like the world record on usage for the thing. And it's DJ, right? And so like, he's so driven to succeed and achieve and everything. And so it's like the chip on the shoulder is the driver. And so just want it to be where it's to prove him right and not about trying to prove other people wrong. And I think as long as we keep it in between those white lines, we're in good shape.
Yeah. Aranda is a big keep it positive guy, which I respect the heck out of. So I'd start there because that's basically his framing of the Lagway thing. Don't worry about proving people wrong. Worry about proving people right. Worry about proving your own self right because you believe in yourself. You think you have the capabilities, so prove yourself right. I love that. It's great framing. And look, for me, Lagway like checks a lot of boxes. Had you not showed me his stats from his career so far, like I see why he was rated where he was rated. Like this is not a surprise to me at all. So he checks a lot of boxes from a personality standpoint. He was fun to talk to. Obviously, Randa spoke very highly of him. We just heard him say there that he broke the record on the VR system. So, like the work ethic, the leadership, the personality, it's all there. Now you've shown me the stats, and I'm like, oh, okay, interesting.
And with Lagway, with how good he was as a true freshman, his first year on campus in Gainesville, he shattered a bunch of freshman records at Florida to where the drop-off last year, I think the narrative was that he wasn't a hard worker or that there was regression in terms of his skill set. And from everything after the fact that I've read and talked to some Florida fans when I was down there doing a basketball game, like they pinned most of that on Billy Napier, his coach. And all of this data that we now have about the VR headset and how hard he's working this offseason kind of magnifies that and drives that home to me that like this isn't necessarily a Lagway thing. So that tells me he could have a really, really good year this year down in Waco. All right, let's turn our attention to Houston. So Houston's the other team we kind of recapped today, coming off a 10-win season. Connor Wegman healthy for the first time, but a major red flag for me is their defense and their defensive line because they have to replace Carlos Allen. And last year, they gave up 200 rushing yards or more in their last couple of games. They only had 3 sacks in their last 4. Like that was a problem once the kind of meat of the Big 12 schedule and the wear and tear of a Big 12 season started to weigh in. So here's Willie Fritz, clip 1 on the competition on the defensive line.
Right now, but we really did a good job bringing some dudes in and having a bunch of returns. We're going to probably roll, 8 to 10 guys early on the defensive line, and then kind of let those guys show us who should be playing, 70 snaps and who should be playing 15 snaps. So a lot of competition on the defensive line.
Yeah, Willie is very matter of fact. I think, so much of his program is evident in his interviews, which isn't always the case with coaches. But it's like I would say the most important aspect of Willie Fritz's consistency as a head coach is inconsistency. And I think it's evident in his interviews too. But he even talks about it at some point, like, I was like, oh, you just show up and win 10 games. He's like, it's not that easy. I was like, I didn't say it was. You make it look easy. And a big part of that is just because, again, of like the consistency that he shows. And he even says in this interview, I'm not sure if I pulled the clip, but at one point he mentions that he's got guys that will be around the program that he coached, years ago. And they're like, oh, you're still doing that? Like the same thing that he was doing back when he was a JUCO coach. It's like that goes a long way.
Totally. And like he hasn't dismissed the idea of Houston like being in the college football playoff, competing for a national championship. And he looks across the way at Kelvin Sampson and how he built his hoops program as kind of the template. But he's been operating on a similar template, to your point, everywhere he's been. Offensively, Connor Wegman is back. Keyshawn Henderson comes in. We noted just how polished Connor Wegman was. Offensively, Houston with Mekhi Hughes, like they bring in a ton of guys that were with Fritz at previous stops. It's all connected when it comes to the Willie Fritz coaching tree. He brings in Michael Bishop. Like there's a lot of things to like about Houston. Also, the other thing with Fritz, he talks about how young coaches can kind of market themselves for head coaching opportunities, like a Michael Bishop or some of these other guys on his staff. Because I think when you think of Fritz, he's an older coach, it's an older staff, and that's not the case. Let's play clip 3 from Willie Fritz.
I was primarily a defensive coach. I'm way up. I think the issue with some guys getting an opportunity to be a head coach is there's limited opportunities to be a head coach. There's 138 Division I jobs in the country. They're hard to get. My path was a little different. I went from JUCO to D2 to 1AA to Group of 5 or whatever it's called, and Power 4 football. I've talked to some guys about this, and I've told them, sometimes you might need to take a step back financially to take a step forward in the profession if you really want to be a head coach. It's because some people are hesitant to hire a guy who doesn't have head coaching experience. It's hard to get it with these limited opportunities. So I don't know if that's the case or not. Defensive football is just as complex as offensive football. I just listened to Sean Bell speak, our assistant head coach, quarterback coach, and then I listened to Austin Armstrong, their defensive coordinator, speak. And there's a lot of stuff going on. I was sitting next to a couple of guys, and they were writing as fast as they could. I was lucky I get all those notes from them ahead of time. But I don't think there should be a distinction between a guy coaching on one side of the ball and whether he'd make a good head coach or not. Both of them are, mini head coaches with what they have to do, in my opinion.
That's Willie Fritz talking about his young coordinators. So you've got the seasoned veteran at the top, but you still have a lot of energy and life when it comes to kind of the balance within the staff. I just love what he's built.
And I believe that was from the Texas High School Coaches Association meeting, not from our interview with him at Media Days. It's really interesting, though, because there was a lot of talk at that in relation to what he's mentioning here, which is, is it more difficult for a defensive coordinator, somebody with a defensive background, to become a head coach? And I loved his answer there because, it's just hard to become a head coach, period. End of story. Print that. I think if you're a decision maker at a university and you're hiring based on, well, I want to hire an offensive minded coach or a defensive minded head coach, I think you've lost, right? Like you've got to go in open minded, thinking like offense, defense, whatever. Part of what I love about Joey McGuire as a head coach is how much he's coached in different spots, right? I mean, he was obviously a head coach in high school. When he went to Baylor, he coached tight ends, he coached the secondary, he coached linebackers. So for me, it's the variety of getting to see different perspectives that makes him a really good head coach. And am I then looking for that type of, no. I'm just interview people. Like John Harbaugh was a special teams coordinator, just don't be like, well, we want to hire an offensive minded head coach. Hire the right person with and understanding their background is just going to be part of what they are as a coach.
Yeah,
I would never
really
have
good stuff.
schemes. And I think that's one of the biggest issues that you have now is like people are obsessed with schemes. Hire a coach and a leader. Don't hire schemes. Schemes come and go.
Mm-hmm. Brandon Whedon, he's a guy that was part of a very, very successful scheme and coached by the legend Mike Gundy, former NFL and Oklahoma State quarterback. Brandon Whedon is our guest coming up next here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. He's Ari, I'm James. We're powered by Modelo.
Viola steps up and he's sacked. Back in their own territory at the 47 by Golday. Fake it to Kingston and give it instead to Hagan. And he is dropped by Golday.
At home, Golday is right here off the edge. I want you to watch Corleone in the middle. He's the one that starts the disruption. Boom, swims through, makes everybody feel chaotic, and then Golday stays home where he's supposed to be.
Thought about running it. Now is sandwiched out of bounds. Jake Golday. Taking a look to see Golday at the end. Viola steps up and he's sacked. Back in their own territory at the 47 by Golday. A call by Cincinnati.
Jake Golday had a nice job on
Big 12 today here exclusively on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. A guy that threw for over 9,000 yards and 70-plus touchdowns at Oklahoma State, an All-American quarterback. Brandon Weeden joins us here on Big 12 today. You completed 72% of your passes your last year at Oklahoma State, almost 5,000 yards passing. Brandon, super excited to have you on the program. Before we talk about your playing days, what do you know about Eric Morris? Have you met Eric Morris and just the life and energy that he brings to this Oklahoma State program? What are your impressions so far?
Yeah, I've been around him a few times. I took my boys up. We went up, and he invited me to come up to speak to some recruits. Probably, I'm guessing 3-4 weeks ago. So I got to go up there and spend some time with him and the staff, and he invited, like I said, me and my boys over to the stadium and kind of hang out with the recruits and watch them do all their, I want to call it a fashion show. They get in uniforms and do all that stuff. That's all definitely changed. But man, I tell you what, his energy, his ability to just relate to people, conversate with people. I mean, he's kind of a breath of fresh air. It really is. You know, he's so in tune with what's going on around him. You can tell he loves the relationships he builds with his players. I mean, he talks about it all the time, and you can see it when you're around him all the time. But I tell everybody he's kind of like a shot in the arm. I think, regardless if they go win 8, 9, 10 games, I do expect him to be better. But God, I love the energy he's bringing. So I'm hoping he kind of creates a pulse and gets this program kind of back to where it needs to be.
Yeah. And for your history playing the position and his history in coaching the position, I'm curious, kind of anything stand out to you about quarterbacking, talking with him about the position, because he's had so many good ones that he's developed over the years. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, his track record kind of speaks for itself. I mean, he does a great job at that position. Obviously playing the wide receiver position, he's, assuming just getting to know him, what little I have. I mean, he probably played the wide receiver position with the quarterback mind, understanding defenses, understanding zones, understanding how to attack certain defenses. But you can definitely see that in his play calling. And I mentioned that when I was speaking to the recruits. I'm like, if I'm a quarterback or receiver, like I want that guy calling plays for me. I mean, he's got a little bit of that Dana Holgerson in him, just kind of a aggressive attack you style of offense and play calling ability. But he's just got a unique knack for understanding how to attack certain defenses, what to do scheme wise, tempo wise, things like that I'm really excited about. I think we need to get back to being a little bit more aggressive. I know personnel wise, we haven't been fantastic the last couple of years. We've had some issues, some glaring issues pretty much across the board. But I think we kind of got away from doing what made us great on offense for so long. I mean, even after I left, when Mason Rudolph was there, we're still swinging it and putting up some pretty crazy numbers. So, no, I think he understands the position, very quarterback friendly, knows how to teach it to make it simple. It seems like simple for everybody. They know what to do. They don't have to think. They can just go out and react, play fast. And I think that gives you the best recipe for success. I tell I've got a 12-year-old, and I actually talked to him about that last night. I installed 20 plays, and actually there's only like 12 because some of them were like one-way runs and then two-way runs. So there's really like 12 plays. And I told him that last night. I said, guys, look, if you can just learn these 12 plays when you're not thinking on the field, you can go out and you just react and you play fast and you can be more physical. And that kind of stems from, listening to coaches throughout the day, Dana Holgerson, Todd Monken, those guys that preach that all the time. And, unfortunately now I'm getting old where I'm coaching my kid and I'm saying the same thing. So here we are.
Brandon Weeden back in 2011 led Oklahoma State to an 11-1 regular season, berth in the Fiesta Bowl. They won that game. He had 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. And Brandon, I had forgot that you played minor league baseball before you went back to playing quarterback for Oklahoma State. And Drew Mestemaker, he didn't even start for his high school team. So he's kind of inexperienced. What's the hardest thing for a young quarterback to learn that doesn't have anything to do with arm talent?
Well, I think adjusting to the speed will probably be a big adjustment for him. That week 2 game against Oregon. I mean, it's going to feel like somebody pushed fast forward. It's going to be fast. So I would say speed. Just take some time, maybe getting used to. I mean, obviously, in North Texas, you played against some pretty good defenses. Probably not as good as what he's going to see in the Big 12, but yeah. So that I would say speed. Maybe complexity of defense. I mean, I remember that was the hardest thing for me when I got back to Oklahoma State, is just seeing, in high school, you see maybe 2, maybe 3 coverages, it's very, very vanilla. And then you get to college football and it gets a little more complex. And then, on third down, they try to confuse you and blitz and do all those things. So I think it's just, he's a smart guy. I've everything he does and says, I really admire, and he does a great job. So I'm not real worried about it. But it's going to be a little bit of adjustment early on. But I mean, the guy's talented. I mean, he's a big guy. He can throw it. I think he's got an extremely, extremely high ceiling. But I told people when I was going through it, I mean, baseball was always my sport, and I did that for as long as I could. And then when I came back, I mean, to read defenses, it took me a little bit, just understanding it, kind of knocking the cobwebs off and understanding, the terminology of defense and stuff like that. But he's long beyond that. He's been playing football, so he's way ahead of where I was for sure. So I'm excited to watch him play. I really am. He got a ton of talent, and like I said, we just finished up the media day stuff, and I just love everything that he says, and he handles himself the right way.
Yeah, agreed. What stands out to you about the position overall in college? Some of these guys are way more prepared to play immediately, like a Bear Bachmeyer last year. Just give us your sense of kind of where the position is right now at the college level.
I think it's, I wouldn't say it's 100%, but I would say it's kind of trending to that more mobile, mobile quarterback. And I think it's doing the same thing in the NFL. I mean, look at guys like Josh Allen and, the days of Peyton Manning and Tom Brady and Drew Brees kind of standing there and just surgically dicing you apart. I mean, yeah, you could do that. But nowadays, I mean, especially the longer you play in the NFL, I mean, the pass rush is just, it's insane. The complexity of defense is just crazy. So you got to have a quarterback that can kind of move. And if you look across the country, I don't follow it quite as close as I used to, but it just seems all the guys that, give their team the best chance to win. The Chambliss kid that went to LSU, the guys that are mobile and can kind of extend plays when things aren't there and get their offense 4, 5, 6 yards, or have the potential to crease it and get explosive plays. But yeah, I think it's just the mobile quarterback has kind of become kind of a priority for these coaches when they are recruiting kids. But at the end of the day, I'm still a firm believer. You got to stand in there, understand what you're seeing, and have the ability to sling it and throw it accurately, throw it on time, things like that. So I think you just combine, arm talent, accuracy, things like that, with a guy that can extend and be mobile enough to make plays with his feet.
Brandon Whedon joins us here on Big 12 today. Oklahoma State legendary quarterback with us on the program. For this season, like a lot of people have made Oklahoma State a really trendy pick to kind of be a dark horse contender in the Big 12. In your eyes, how does that happen? And like from the outside, what is a realistic bar for Eric Morris and Mestamaker and everybody else in year one?
Yeah, I mean, when people ask me, I mean, I live an hour from Stillwater, so I get the question all the time, how are we going to be? And I said, this doesn't sound good, but it's like, we can't be any worse, right? Like, it's got to get better than it was last year. But I kind of like I said earlier, I think we got to get back to having a different identity on offense. Maybe not being quite as passive, being more aggressive. I feel like whenever we were at our best when I was there, and even after I left, I think, we played with the tempo that allowed us to dictate what the defense did versus the defense being settled in and dictating what we did offensively. So I think just that attack mentality, the aggressive style of play. I mean, just, smash mouth, hit you in the face on defense. Last year, as bad as it was, for the most part, I think most guys continue to play pretty hard. We just had a lack of talent out there. And it's hard to say when you have 82, 83 new guys coming on, onto a team that haven't played at that university before. I mean, there's so many question marks, so it's hard to put your finger on it and hard to have a grasp of what's going on. But I just think we need to establish the identity, kind of like everywhere that Eric Morris has ever been. You can tell they have an identity, and the last couple of years at Oklahoma State, unfortunately, I just don't think we've really had one. You're just kind of not sure we were good or great at anything, so there's kind of a smorgasbord of play calls and ways that we were trying to attack off or tag defenses in particular. So I just think he creating that identity, and I know he's trying to do that. He's talked about it, and I think he's there's a guy that can do it. It's definitely Eric Morris.
Do you see similarities between Eric Morris and Mike Gundy?
Yeah. I mean, I think especially Coach Gundy when I first got there. Of course, the year I got there was 2007, so that was the infamous "I'm a man, I'm 40" chant or rant he went on. So he was young, fiery. He's always been a little bit more outspoken, but he was just he had a lot of juice to him, and that's kind of where Eric's at. I mean, guy's got a lot of energy, got a lot of passion, for what he does, passion for the kids that are in that locker room, and a passion to win. And I think Coach Gundy definitely had that. They're obviously both being offensive-minded guys, have the ability to get creative and draw up pretty good concepts and plays to be successful on offense. So I definitely see some different personalities to a certain extent, but I do see some similarities on how they want to run a program and how they want to do things to create a culture and create an identity.
All right, Brandon, think back to your playing days. This could be a Gundyism or any specific moment, but your best moment wearing the orange and black could be a game, locker room, hallway conversation, anything goes. Give us a story.
Oh, man. God. I mean, on the field, let me think about off the field. On the field, for me, it was beating OU at home the way we did to win the Big 12 championship my senior year. I mean, we had the mishap at Iowa State a couple weeks before, and so we knew that we had to take care of Oklahoma, and we thought if we won in the fashion that we did, we might have a chance to go play for the national title. And just when I say we punched them in the mouth and they wanted none of it, it was such a good feeling. I mean, the third quarter, we knew that game was pretty much over, and they did too. Kudos to our guys up front and our guys, blocking the perimeter. I mean, those corners and safeties wanted no part of it. They just wanted to get to the locker room, and our guys just kind of imposed their will on them. So after that game, celebrating, I mean, I had to put my helmet. I had a Big 12 championship hat on, and I had to put my helmet back on because I kept getting hit in the head. I got hit more on the field celebrating, I think, than I did during the game. So it was quite a celebration. That night was a lot of fun. Oh man, off the field, I'm trying to think of something. My one lasting memory, it's not a good memory, it's a horrible memory, but 2000, I think it was 2008, we were headed to Georgia to play, I believe, if I remember, I think it was Georgia. And Coach Gundy got mad. We had a couple of specialists that showed up late to our little meeting before we were doing our mock game, exactly a week before we traveled to Athens, and he was pissed. And so we went out on the turf. This is August, and we went out on the turf and ran 54 100-yard sprints. Now, the first 12, 14, 16 were sprints, and then guys were, it's 125 degrees on that turf. So not one of Gundy's best memories, and as us players, we still bring it up. We still talk about it all the time. It was crazy. I'm sure he regrets doing it because we went to Georgia and got smoked. We had no legs, and everybody was gassed. But that's kind of a legendary story. If you were there from 07, 08, 09, those years, it was not one of Coach Gundy's fondest memories because we let him know everybody was pretty ticked off.
Yeah, I'm going to guess nobody was late the rest of the season.
Guys were on time. That's he did make a point. I guess he was trying to get his point across. He did, but I'm not sure it was the smartest way to go about it if we were trying to win a football game.
Yeah, well said. Brandon Weeden, former Oklahoma State quarterback here on Big 12 today. Huge fan, man. You were elite at that position. Loved those Oklahoma State teams and can't wait to see kind of this new era of Oklahoma State football. Appreciate it, Brandon.
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Brandon.
Brandon Weeden, our guest here on Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. We are powered by our friends at Modelo. That 2011 run for Oklahoma State was incredible, and his numbers were jaw-dropping for the Cowboys. Coming up next on the program, we pivot over to women's soccer because the Big 12 season is just a few weeks away. Michelle Leonard, the Baylor coach, will join us after this timeout. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. This is Big 12 Radio, watched on Big 12 Studios.
The field, and you've got number 88 to the bottom of your screen against a shorter defender.
Hoover again, crossing pattern, end zone, caught, touchdown. It's a moot point now. It's Rogers, the tight end.
About 4 hours from campus in Fort Worth. 5 wide here and all sorts of time for Hoover with a dime down the middle of the field. DJ Rogers, the tight end, sets up first and goal for TCU.
The Red Raiders might say, if you could just get a redo on that one. Big play to DJ. Big game there for this TCU offense. Hoover 6 of 7 in this opening drive. He'll keep it. Just tosses it to DJ Rogers, and TCU on the board first. Snap back. That's always a good job by a defender.
Hoover, he does it again. No problem. DJ Rogers has it inside the 10, all the way down to the 8.
Hoover pulls it to the tight end, DJ Rogers. His second touchdown of the season.
As it was Barnes by himself for a moment. Swings it out. Rogers breaks the tackle, stays on his feet. Is decked out of bounds at the 30.
Big 12 today, powered by Modelo, exclusively on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. The Big 12 Conference women's soccer season begins just a few weeks away. The league will drop the preseason poll and the preseason all-league team the week of August 3rd. And to chat about her program and the league as a whole, Michelle Leonard, the head coach at Baylor, joins us here on the show. And Coach, during the break, we were all chatting about the heat. It's currently like 96 degrees already in terms of the feels like temperature. So how are you managing this time of year, just those conditions with your team and these conditions that'll probably continue well into late August and September?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're really grateful for the NCAA giving us this 2 weeks acclimatization period that we've not historically had in the past. I think is really important, and we're using it for that, making sure our players are ready and they're adapted to the heat and getting out as early as we can.
How have you seen the Big 12 evolve as a soccer conference?
I think in my time here at Baylor, I'm going in my 5th year. What's been pleasant to witness is just the shift, I think, in playing style. And so obviously last year, the Big 12 had a great season overall as far as number of teams to get into the NCAA tournament. We bypassed the SEC. I think there's this reputation that the SEC is somehow better in women's soccer. And last year, I think we proved that to be false. And a lot of it's because the quality and the style of play has improved. There's more teams playing a more modern brand of soccer, us included. Teams like BYU that have come to the league are doing that as well. And you've got top teams in the league like TCU who've done well the last few years, who play a really modern style of soccer as well. So I think that's helped. It's led to a lot of success and a really fun style to watch.
So, Coach, how would you define a modern style of soccer?
I think historically, in the NCAA women's soccer, you see a lot of teams, and a lot still do, play very direct, very physical, reliant on athleticism. And while athleticism is absolutely necessary to be successful at the Power Four level, what we mean by modern is a more methodical game. We want to have the ball, we want to keep the ball, we want to build through the thirds. It's going to, I hope, look more like what you witness when you watch Spain and Argentina play versus, this just kind of track meet up and down the field. Now, the game is very transitional still in the NCAA. It can be depending upon who you're playing against. But I think more and more teams have shifted to that. I think it's harder to coach, it's harder to learn, but it's much more attractive when you learn to do it. It also prepares our players at a higher level to play after college and go on to be professional soccer players.
7 starting goalkeepers from a season ago returned to the league, and 7 of the league's top 16 goal scorers return, as well as 5 of the top 16 assist leaders. So a lot of talent back and returning in this league. What does that mean for the conference overall?
I think it's great for the conference. I think, like I mentioned before, we had a great season. I think we're going to have a lot of teams perform at a really high level as well. But there's always this new question going into every season now with the transfer portal. So it's hard to say what teams are going to look like, who all is going to come in and make an impact. I think teams that maybe didn't perform as well last year could suddenly show up and be really difficult to play against because they maybe made a few new additions, or teams that had great seasons maybe take another big step forward because of those potential additions. So I'm optimistic. I think we're going to have a great season overall as a league. I'm excited to see, what teams look like.
The Big 12 sent a record-tying 8 teams to last year's NCAA tournament. Every single one won its opener for the first time since 2004 and 2007. When you look at the strength and the depth of the league, is this another season where the league can push to that number or even more? Just what do you see big picture?
Yeah, I think where we made huge improvements was in coaches, all of us, with our schedules. We did a really great job scheduling an impressive strength of schedule, but also making sure that you had winnable games. If you go in, you're too aggressive and you lose too many games early on, you put yourself in a bad position, and that hurts the league overall, it hurts the RPI. And so I think we got that right. We talked about that a lot within the conference and wanting to make sure that we have a schedule that benefits our teams, but also helps the entire league because we've all got to play against each other. And so I think we carry that over, the lessons learned from last season. Going in and winning every opening game is a big bar. I don't know that that'll happen for everyone again. That was a great start, but we're playing super tough start to the season. I know a lot of teams are because we want to go out and be tested early on. But to win 75 to 80% of those games is a goal. And to have over 50% wins against other Power Four opponents, I think should be a goal as well.
What is your thoughts, reaction to the World Cup, and how have you seen it maybe change soccer viewership or soccer excitement in the country?
Yeah, it's been really fun to watch the U.S. rally around hosting the World Cup here in Canada and Mexico, and all these people who maybe weren't watching it before get excited about soccer. And I really hope that carries over into the college soccer season. It was great to have it in the U.S. and just the exposure that it gave our country as a whole, and all these internationals coming over and experiencing the U.S. and our culture and how we do things. It was really fun to watch. But I think most importantly, last time we hosted a World Cup, you saw a surge in people become soccer fans, and so I'm really optimistic that's going to happen again this time.
Talking with Baylor women's soccer coach Michelle Leonard here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. When, a lot of people watched the World Cup, stylistically, you were talking about this kind of modern style of play. Like, what are the parallels and what are the differences when it comes to, like, stylistically, what people saw during the World Cup and, like, college soccer?
I think the college game is gonna continue to be a little bit more transitional because our substitution rules are different. And so at the international level, they've got 5 subs in the World Cup. Like they can't just rotate, rotate, rotate. And so the game gets too transitional, too stretched. Even professional players aren't gonna be able to manage that over a 90-plus minute game. The college level, because we can sub more often, we don't have a restriction on number of subs. We just have re-entry rules. You have some programs that build their style of play around the ability to just rotate lines of players at a time, and have had a lot of success doing that. So we're not necessarily, I mean, we rotate, we sub, but that's not our game model. Our game model, I like to think, is going to look more like a Spain, a team that wants to be the collective best team, who's got the collective best principles. And obviously, we have great players that we know can perform well. But we're not as reliant on maybe one individual player to solve problems for us or score all the goals as you might see even in the World Cup. Obviously France is loaded with top talented players. Argentina had Messi, but Spain, the team who you don't necessarily go and say player ABC are the best players in the world. They're great players and unbelievable players, but it's the team unit that makes them the best and why they won. And we're clearly the best. So that's what we're trying to replicate here at Baylor. But you're still going to have pushback. Not everybody's going to do that. So we're going to play teams that are going to want to play that really transitional game. And it's going to be a battle of whose style is really going to take over and win.
We talked about the returning goalkeepers in the Big 12. Azul Alvarez, one of them. Just give us, an opportunity to highlight some of your players you're excited to see this year.
Yeah, Azul's awesome. She's going to be back. She's actually with Mexico right now. She's playing in a tournament out in the Dominican Republic. She'll be back before our first preseason game. So great experience for her. Really happy to have her back. She gives our team confidence. She's a great shot stopper. She's good with her feet. She helps us build out. She has a great presence. Controls her box really, really nicely. Obviously, we're bringing back Natalie Vaughter, our right back, who's our anchor in the back line. We graduated a lot of players in our back line, but we've got another year in Nat, and she's got a lot of experience, and she's a top player for us. I think the best defender in the conference, and so really happy to have Nat back. We obviously graduated Tyler Iskrig, our leading goal scorer, so then the question becomes who's going to score goals, but I think we have a lot of players who can do that. We're returning Ari and Callie and Teresa, these players who all scored goals for us last year. Olivia Hess in the midfield, who is a great playmaker, who is very capable of scoring goals herself, who we're going to build things around centrally. And she certainly can score more than she did, and I think she will. And so those returners, Liv, Ari, Callie, Teresa, those are the players, Natalie and Azul, who are kind of our base that we're grateful to be returning and building around. And then we've added some great new additional players to fill in some of those needs that we have.
You return over 70% of your minutes. So even with the players that have departed, having that much experience back, specifically, what can that do for your team and your roster? And how do you make sure to continue to develop all of that experience?
Yeah, I think, we've got a lot of players with a lot of good minutes under their belt, as you've mentioned, now that have played in postseason experiences, Big 12 tournament, NCAA tournament, big games. We had some big results last season against some highly ranked opponents. We got ranked last season, finished the season ranked 15th in the country. So that gives them a confidence and an experience level that we can build off of. They understand our game model at a very high level, so we're not trying to reteach it to a whole lot of new people. And the new people that we are trying to teach it to, they can teach each other. But we're really intentional about who we recruited, and these players that have joined us came from programs, whether it's club or other programs, where they've been playing in a similar game model. And so it's an easy transition for them as well. So those minutes, those valuable minutes are going to help teach the game model, teach it to our new players, and give us that confidence going into these big moments. We have straight away we play Arkansas and A&M straight away.
Coach, excited for the upcoming season. Appreciate your time and insight. Should be another banner year for the Big 12.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you.
Michelle Leonard, the head women's soccer coach at Baylor, joining us here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. We are brought to you by Modelo. You're listening to us on TuneIn, watching us on Big 12 Studios. We'll wrap up the show coming up next.
Behind the sticks again. This one's picked off. Intercepted by Purnell. Des Purnell, a touchdown.
What an incredible play by Purnell yet again.
The game back to tailback. Blitz coming. Daniels fumbles. A fourth down takeaway for Kansas State. Malcolm Alcorn Crowder. Pick play in the middle that turns a defender loose. Big strong receiver to make those plays. For Kansas State, Purnell and Romaine together. Purnell was first, Romaine second.
Hoover, tip ball. It's intercepted by Purnell. Des Purnell, his second of the day.
Purnell with another interception, and he tries to get to the end zone again.
Going to see Purnell here and Romaine here. Watch how they both shoot this B-gap and make it a living hell for both the guard and the running back.
It's the final possession. Hoover running out of time, and down he goes.
Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio. Watched on Big 12 Studios. Anthony Smith is behind the camera. Taman Turner is producing on the audio side. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling, wrapping up the show for a Wheels Off Wednesday. We had Michelle Leonard, the head women's soccer coach at Baylor just moments ago. Before that, Brandon Whedon, the Oklahoma State legendary quarterback, and Norm Roberts was our other guest today. We went through a Big 12 basketball preview with the longtime assistant at KU and former head coach at St. John's. As we wrap up here, guys, last week somebody asked me, and it caught me off guard, what's living rent-free in your head? And I thought, what is living rent-free? And then I thought, that'd be a great question for the guys. What is living rent-free in your head? So it can go any direction. Ari, what's rent-free?
I don't know. You introduced it. What's rent-free mean?
What is living rent-free in your head?
Social media likes to throw it out there. I don't even know what it means. I don't know. I mean, isn't everything in your head rent-free?
What is a topic or a obstacle or opportunity in your mind that lives rent-free? It could be going to the Rangers-White Sox game tonight. It could be this Major League Baseball player that had to have surgery on a ruptured testicle. It could be anything.
Yeah, but nothing pays rent in my head. This is what I don't get about rent-free in your head. Yes, I have many thoughts. None of them are paying rent. I should be earning lots more rent from the thoughts in my head. So I don't entirely understand the question. If you'd like, we could shrink you, put you in my nose, you could walk around my brain a little bit and then get a better sense of it. But that's pretty much it. But yeah, I'm one of the, I guess, few people on earth that every thought that I have is rent-free. Sadly, I wish I were getting more rent for the thoughts in my head.
Now I understand. The issue is the terminology.
I think I know mine.
Okay.
The amount of trash talking that I am going to do when the Dallas Cowboys win the Super Bowl. Like, I have a list, a lot of people on that list that I have thought about things that I'm going to say and do when it happens. Because I have been made fun of for nearly my entire life of being a Cowboys fan, and I can't wait to get back at the people who have made fun of me.
You get made fun of the Cowboys too?
Say it again.
So what thoughts in your head do you get paid for?
And are you saying are you going on record to say the Cowboys are winning the Super Bowl this season?
No, he did not say that.
Okay.
Those words did not come out of my mouth.
He did say that they will win one before he dies.
Okay.
Yes.
In your lifetime.
Yes. It's going to happen.
Once again, super confused about the rent-free thing, but there are a lot of people on social media that have told me that there's certain things living in my head rent-free. Again, everything in my head is rent-free. Don't really understand what the question is here. If you could explain it better, James.
I think that the term, I'm a Gen Z savant, obviously. The term rent-free comes from the analogy of you owning a property and somebody lives there, but they don't pay rent. They're living there rent-free. So your brain is the property, and these thoughts in there are not paying rent. Like, they don't really, you really wish they weren't there, but they are there.
Yeah. Okay. So rent-free means that a person, memory, or thought is occupying your mind constantly and uninvited without your permission or any reciprocal benefit. So I feel like Taman gave us the wrong one, because there is a reciprocal benefit of that. His team wins a Super Bowl. He gets to stomp on people. So it's not, so nobody's actually getting paid for any thoughts. It's not a literal rent-free. James, you are the type of person that has a lot of rent-free, I would imagine, in your mind. You just strike me as a rent-free kind of guy.
All the time. My thoughts are always racing. They're always in there.
Unwanted fixation, persistent memories, positive or neutral engagement.
Unwanted fixation. See,
Said
that's the
something thinking
part
about
that,
someone who does not think about you in return.
wow, I did not understand just how deep this meaning was. This is a deep meaning. Have you guys seen Project Hail Mary?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
You just went like on a space kick this weekend? You're talking about Interstellar and Project Hail Mary? Are there any other space
Apparently,
movies you want to get into here?
yeah, we could dive into a little Gravity. It was overrated. Apparently, I'm all into space. Ari, you gave me some tremendous dad advice earlier during the show, um, and I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So on the dad front, one thing over our break, uh, I accidentally created a new game at my house, and I think it's got potential. Might
Okay,
get me
so
investigated one day, but outside of that, I think it could be big.
okay, good. So let's hold that thought just to kind of recreate the magic from segment one here. Basically, what happened is you mentioned that hey, you asked one of your stepkids to bring you coffee. He declined. I told you that's kind of an unacceptable answer. You, I guess, have taken that advice, and now you've done what?
I'm rolling with it. Yeah. So just to cap off that part of the show, I went back out there, but it was chaos. Okay, it was chaos in the other part of the house. So my goal in that situation is to get to the Keurig coffee maker, grab my coffee, and return back to this safe space being unnoticed, to which I succeeded.
Good job.
So the game, I think you guys are really going to get behind this.
Okay, because I was gonna say you said you took my advice. That's kind of doesn't seem like at all what you did.
No, not really. But I think in terms of supporting one another, this has potential. So the kids, we play outside. It's basically hide and seek meets dodgeball meets the Hunger Games. The kids hide in the backyard. I count down. I'm the attacker. But unlike a traditional hide and seek where, hey, I see you, you're out, I have to hit them with a football. So they become moving targets. And let me tell you, there's nothing more satisfying than
And
rearing back with a football
yeah,
and pegging a child full
yeah.
throttle
There's
than what
nothing.
I've accomplished.
Yeah, there's nothing more satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, long story long here. One of your kids decided not to bring you your coffee. So in turn, you've created a game where you can just chuck a football at them.
I've circled back to I'll see you in the backyard at 6 p.m.
Got it. So
You'll be running for your life. I'll be rearing back.
while while we're, just kind of throwing ideas out there, right? This is a good session. Maybe just a thought. Go back to the coffee and tell them it's kind of your responsibility to do that. Like that's just kind of how this thing works. When I was a kid, I had to do things for my parents that I didn't want to do, but it didn't really matter that I didn't want to do them because I had to do them. And it's just kind of the way it goes. Sorry,
See,
sometimes parents got to be parents and kids, because I feel like that's one of the biggest failures of our age parenting is there's a lot of like dads and moms that I'm around that like don't want to parent. It's like, yeah, but they said they don't want to do this. Well, yeah, but that's like sometimes that's okay, but not all the time. Like sometimes you got to step up and be like, no, you can't do this. Or like it's not always on the kid to make decisions. At some point, parents have to step up and make decisions.
yeah, one of the like
Or
most
that decision could be just chucking footballs at them. I don't know.
See, I'm going with childhood memories with a little CTE.
Yeah.
It's kind of baked in. But one of the most like attention grabbing moments for my children was when I told them how our parents used to parent. And it was like
kind of the opposite.
Right. Like now we get it. But yeah, tonight, if you guys want to come over, 7 p.m., a little family bonding with tactical warfare.
Can we get my man some pizza or pizza, some coffee? That's it. I'm just trying to get my guy some coffee while he's doing a show. That's it.
We
Yeah, but you
got it.
didn't get it yourself. You're holding up the coffee cup. You had to get it yourself. That's where my disdain for this comes from.
Yeah, and by the third time I went out there, he had vacated the premises. He was gone. And
James is Mr. Avoid confrontation.
I was hunting him. Okay, hunting him like a heat-seeking missile.
Yeah.
And he was not there. But when I see him in the backyard, if there's not laces imprinted down his rib cage, I have failed.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say that's
right?
the proper reaction.
That's it.
Did you not want to talk about the A's player that has suffered a ruptured, what's that word called?
Yeah, I just mentioned it.
Yeah.
I literally said it. He underwent surgery on a ruptured testicle.
The most amazing part of this story, Joshua Kuroda Grauer, he stayed in the game after he ruptured his testicle. So it wasn't like this happened and then he's out. No, he stayed in the game. He got a hit. He played another half inning of defense and then left and was like, something might be wrong. And that is, in fact, what happened. Something was very wrong. But it's the part to me that is just simply is incredible is that he stayed in the game.
Yeah, how?
Yeah, I don't know. Athletes are superhumans in that way. Even baseball players.
Like, I don't understand how that's possible. I can think of nothing more painful to experience in any situation.
So there was once my wife and I watching a baseball game, and Jazz Chisholm fouled a ball that bounced and then hit him in that area, just square. And so my wife was like, "Oh, but he's wearing a cup, right?" And I'm like, "No, professional baseball players do absolutely not wear cups." So then when I sent her this story, she said, "Here's another example of why it would be really easy for baseball players to wear cups." And it just got me thinking, like, why don't they? Is it just simply because like they're pros and like because of that, like they're uncomfortable and don't want to wear them? But it's like, I don't know. I heard 2 or 3 stories like this. I'd probably think about it, or at least doing something close to it, some sort of protection. Maybe just me.
Yeah, I would think in today's society, with the advancements in technology, there could be protection that isn't uncomfortable. It has to exist. Do you guys remember the first time you got hit there?
Yes. I pretty much remember every time.
When was the first?
Might have been in baseball. Now that I think about it, in high school, this probably wasn't the first time. It's the most memorable one though. But I caught a pop fly there.
Caught a pop fly.
Yes, like
up in the air.
Field, I'm running. I happen to get my glove down with like centimeters from that area, and the velocity the ball was hit and my glove going backwards at the same time caused quite the disruption.
That sounds horrific.
Yeah. Yeah, it was real bad. Real bad.
That sounds bad. Yeah. Mine was a horrific bicycling accident where I kind of lost my balance going down a big drop, handlebars, boom.
So where was the point of contact? Seat?
The point of contact was the end of the handlebars.
Huh.
Swung around.
Ooh.
I'm elevated. Boom. It was not good.
Yeah, that's like pick your poison sort of situation there, you know?
And I didn't know what was happening. Never experienced anything like that in my life. All right. Well, that's a fun note to end the show on. Hey, don't miss our Big 12 Power Hour Media Day interviews galore. Coming up at 2 Eastern, 1 o'clock Central. Scott Satterfield from Cincinnati, Lance Leipold from Kansas, and Jimmy Rogers from Iowa State. Kickoff 3 hours of interviews at 3 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock Central will be the next block. And then at 4 o'clock Eastern and 3 o'clock Central later today. Great work as always for T-Chains, our audio engineer, for Anthony Smith behind the camera. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. This has been Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, brought to you by Modelo, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios.